You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
Broadcasting from the Blanchardstown Centre, this is Phoenix FM.
This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Hey everybody, it's JB Jeremy Borash, and you are listening to Darrow O'Connor on the...
Welcome to the Wrestling Rewind, the only wrestling podcast by fans who don't hate wrestling.
Hello everybody, welcome to Nerd to Know Media, also on the True Penny channel and of course here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. My name is Darrow O'Connor and you are listening to the Wrestling Rewind. We were away for a couple of weeks, so there were some best of shows up as well. If you guys check it out, you can go over to our website, thewrestlingrewind.com, and get all the shows over there for free as well. But we are back live. We're going to do some more live streams as well over on thewrestlingrewind.com. And of course, we're here every single Tuesday on Phoenix 92.5 FM and of course on the True Penny channel. This week, we're going to be talking about Extreme Rules 2020, and it's a three-man booth. So as I said, I'm not here alone this week. I'm here with my regular co-host, Mr. Martin Herty. Martin, how are you, sir?
Not a bother, Derek. Great to have you back. Sorry to hear you're not in fine health. I wasn't well myself there during the week, but I'm on the tail end of a string of antibiotics, so just they kick in after about 2 or 3 days. So you haven't long left to go. No,
I haven't. I have to say it's been a... You know, I have this cold that just won't go away. What it is, it's like a chest infection or something. And I'm like, oh man, this is not good. So get the antibiotics and then hopefully I should be fine. But Martin, we still haven't got your challenge. You're still 1-0 undefeated and Punk has still not.
Although
still not responded.
What I will say is that he hasn't responded to me, but for some reason he hasn't responded to anyone in the past month or any kind of communications or contacts. So I'm not taking it personally.
This is fair. For anyone who doesn't know, there is some news on that. It's a developed situation, obviously, what happened in AEW. We'll probably talk about that when we have more news on it. But for now, Martin is still 1-0. CM Punk is still avoiding him. And hopefully we'll get that fight one day, Martin. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, it's just it's like your man says in The Shawshank Redemption, pressure and time. You can achieve anything with enough pressure and enough time. So I think if we just keep calling him out, eventually it's going to get to him.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's got to happen. But we're also joined by the one, the only, Dave Stevens. David, welcome. Three-man booth.
Three-man booth, indeed. So great to be back on the Wrestling Rewind, the only show hosted by people that actually like wrestling. How about that for one? Missed you guys. Trying to get in my once a month, and this had some perfect timing for me. So really excited for tonight's show. And man, do we got some stuff to talk about, folks.
You know what's weird, right? So it's a funny synchronicity how this all happened, right? So long-time listeners of both myself and Dave will know that Gary and Corey used to be on the international desk over in Restview. And I was at Gary's wedding last week, right? Corey was also there. And after the whole, you know, Gary getting married thing was done, and after I talked to Corey for a little while, I went up to Gary. I was like, hey, you know, Extreme Rules is on tonight. And he goes, what? And he goes, yeah. And I was like, I thought you knew it. He goes, yeah, God, I forgot they're doing it on a Saturday now. So, I mean, this caught everyone by surprise. And I know Corey doesn't really watch wrestling anymore. But what was that like for you guys, that this was randomly on a Saturday? Because I forgot about this also. I watched it after the wedding. But I thought that was strange. Are WWE doing this now all the time? Or do you think this is going to be all the time, right?
Yeah. So best I can tell, this is, at least looking at the schedule going forward, this is the plan. I think having WrestleMania and then SummerSlam happening over multiple nights, seeing that, hey, it works on Saturdays, let's do it. It helps them avoid things like Sunday Night Football, which is huge for ratings and takes away a lot of what they'd watch, because honestly, way more people watch Sunday Night Football than watch Monday Night Football. So that's where you're really taking the hit in the States. And of course, I'm referring to U.S. football in that regard. And I like it. It gives me time to recoup. The stuff I watch is mainly on Sundays. Like this past weekend, for instance, we had this Extreme Rules, but then Sunday there was a playoff race in NASCAR I watched. I had an NFL game or two that I watched. There was a slopestyle mountain biking competition over in Australia that I watched. Sports so my point.
At what stage do you look after these children?
This is true.
She watches it with me. Whenever a car crashes in NASCAR, she claps and says, "Yay!"
I spent all Sunday in bed recovering from a hangover. That's what I did.
Well, see, instead of the hangover, I just stay up till 4 a.m. watching these things. It's the beauty of DVR nowadays. That's YouTube TV for the win. I absolutely love it.
I'm kind of surprised by the Sunday thing because by the Saturday thing, because AEW initially started out doing Saturdays. It was kind of a soft promise Tony Khan had made to he's from England, so he'd made a kind of a soft promise to European watchers that it'd be easier for them with Saturday night, and they ended up going to Sundays because they said the difference in the buy rates was just too big to ignore. It seemed to be that Sunday was a much more profitable night, so I'm really surprised to see them going Saturday long term.
Okay, but hear me out.
No, hold on one second before you do. Martin, you put your faith in the wrong person. You had to put your faith in Papa H. He had us covered. That was it. He had us covered. Sorry, David.
I was just going to say, I honestly think if we really break it down, the way bigger issue is who carries, and we're talking about the U.S. market because that's the predominant market that then globally reflects, who carries the premium live events? Peacock. Who owns Peacock? NBC. What does NBC do on Sunday nights? They have Sunday Night Football. That's their main thing.
So I didn't realize it was on the same. I didn't realize it was on the same channel or network.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you listen to the Rewind. You get the full spectrum. You get the full spectrum of these decisions, because it's weird. Like most wrestling podcasts you listen to only cover from, and we're guilty of this as well. When you're not on the, we there's only one side of this. There's like the European side, and then there's the American side, and it's cool to actually have that question answered in real time by just talking about it. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and he talked about the difference in buy rates. Khan did, AEW's Khan, of course, but if you think about it, boxing, UFC, all of your fighting events, for as long as I can remember, have been on Saturday night. So I think it's fitting. I don't have any issue with it, and I like recovering on Sundays.
In terms of just viewing, I far prefer it. Yeah, I think the thing is, if you're the type of person who's inclined to pay to watch like a wrestling pay-per-view, you're gonna make an event of that. You're not gonna care that you're missing going out on Saturday night over it.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is, for us, Martin, you can. I mean, you can come back, get the Fight Link home, and away you go. The Fight Link is the colloquial name for the Night Link, which is the night bus in Dublin.
I thought you said Final Outcome, and I was like, well, that kind of ruins the final. It?
No. It's the late night bus where interesting things happen. But colloquially, that's the colloquial name of it. But no, you can get the Night Link home, and then you can, or get a taxi home or whatever, and then watch it. And I mean, when I got home, it was about 1 o'clock, so it was perfect time, to kind of watch it. And I think as a wrestling fan in Europe, it is weird. I'm not gonna say it is weird that it's not on a Sunday, because you're conditioned 33 years of your life that wrestling's on Sunday, that pay-per-view's on Sunday, and then it's on Saturday. I mean, it makes way more sense. But here's a question to have for both you guys. Do you think if Vince McMahon was still running WWE now, that this would have happened?
Yeah, because it started before he left. You don't make these scheduling decisions with arenas, the day of. This is a lot of this happens years, if not months in advance, sometimes years in advance. And I think, another key point that we have to take away from it is, if you want to watch it on Sunday nights, guess what? You can. That's the brilliance of it. You're not forced to sit down at 8 o'clock to 11:30 and watch it on Saturday night. If it's more convenient for you to watch it at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning, watch it then. If you want to watch it Sunday night when it would have normally aired, when you were used to it your entire life, God bless, you can watch it then. That's the brilliance of it being on a network. It's on demand. So it's and you can rewatch it. These are all things we couldn't do as kids. We'd be putting in the VHS and hoping that it made it, all 3 hours. And I really hope they don't go longer because I didn't put it into extended play mode. So what I mean? So I like this. I think having it on demand helps bring in younger fans as well. Makes it more accessible for them. Parents say, hey, you got to go to bed. It's 10 o'clock at night, so they can wake up in the morning and they can catch, the couple matches that they missed. So I think it's a win-win all the way around.
Now it's my turn to say you put your faith in the wrong person, because I would absolutely believe that the man who was rewriting Monday Night Raw as it was happening would try to negotiate with a venue like the day of the event.
Oh, he had what we just had. Was it Money in the Bank had to get moved to a smaller arena? We had a pay-per-view sometime within the last 5 months that had to get moved.
I still think that's the maddest thing ever. It's like, the arena's too big. We're gonna have a smaller one. It's mad. It's funny though, right?
At least this time he didn't try to claim it was because of a bomb alert.
True. Well, I will tell you this. That was not an issue at all. And for those of you who are tuning in, and obviously a show happened, we're talking about Extreme Rules WWE from October 8th. So
2022.
2022, yeah, of course.
And
that's a show we're
talking from WrestleMania 1991, wasn't it? With the Sheik, not the Sheik, the
Sergeant Slaughter.
Sergeant Slaughter, who was allied himself with the Sheik and against Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that was a bad storyline.
Oh my God, you can just tell. You know what? Sorry, Dave, before you jump in, Martin, before you jump in, I remember, watching. I don't remember when you got the WWE videotapes and you had to watch the ads beforehand, and you had the whole WrestleMania box set. I think it was like WrestleMania 17 was where that stopped. WrestleMania 15 was where that stopped, and it would go through all these main events. And I always remember thinking that when I'm like, Jesus, that must have been terrible. And then I went back and watched it. I'm like, that was terrible. So I think at the time, just what a bad idea that was. Sorry, Martin, go on.
No, I was just going to say the story behind it. I'm sure everyone knows the story behind it. But I mean, yeah, even at that stage, Sergeant Slaughter was, he was fairly over the hill by that stage. Nobody was expecting a great match out of him, and he delivered. Exactly what people were expecting.
He delivered on that terrible match.
He did. Yeah, you can't say he didn't deliver.
That's true.
You cannot say he did not fulfill expectations.
You know what was weird, right? So obviously as a kid, you started watching it at a certain age and you're kind of cognizant of it. So I remember when, I started knowing what was going on as a kid, and Sergeant Slaughter would always be around and you're like, that's a weird guy. And then you'd remember or watch some of the other stuff and you're like, oh, okay, I don't know how this fit together. And then my mind always just flashed forward to him running with a jacket or a towel with Mark Henry trying to cover up the Fabulous Moolah in 2000 in the Royal Rumble. And I'm like, what happened to the continuity?
It must have been different though, Dara, and maybe Dave, you can expand on this, although not saying that you were this age or anything. But I mean, for us watching the whole storyline with Sergeant Slaughter and that, I mean, it was odd, but we're kind of slightly detached from it.
Yeah, I was, for the record, I was 2.5.
Well, yeah, you were 2.5. But for Americans, it must have been strange because they were watching it happen while people were dying in that war. So it must have been. It'd be imagine in the 70s if someone had come out and done a gig, a show in Belfast, and they had the Rahman.
Or imagine, let's say there's this crazy attack that happens over in London that unfortunately ends really badly, and then the WWE decides to run an angle with Hassan and The Undertaker. So I'm just
here's the thing, right? So
they still do it. It repeats.
So this is actually something that was brought up at Comic-Con this year, right? During our panel, Literally Everything is Wrestling Part 2, and we talked about that, right? Wrestling using cheap heat is not anything new, and in the 70s, they probably would have had a character like that. Sure, I have a comic book here, literally right beside me, that features Shamrock, and Shamrock.
What a weird flex.
No, so it gets better. So this people who listen to all the shows know that 2 or 3 weeks ago on Air to No Basis, we did a show where we talked about Shamrock. Shamrock is an Irish superhero, right? Whose dad was in the IRA, right? And that's her storyline. And it's so bizarre. It's like, she's able to use the souls of the dead and stuff, but it's bizarre. And that's from 1981, right? So if that was happening in comics, I guarantee you, there would have been a character like that. That would have been Finn Balor's gimmick.
Well, Finn Finlay did come out in the 90s and battered William Regal and grabbed the camera in WCW and was like, "This is for everything he's done to my country for 400 years." And I'm like, I don't think you can put that all on Regal.
No, I mean, like, but the closest analogy to that would have been the Muhammad Hassan gimmick, where that's what they tried to do, and it just. That's exactly what they did, yeah. So I mean, it's bizarre.
You know what? A less extreme version, even though we're talking about Extreme Rules, but a less extreme version would have been, was it 03 or 04 when La Resistance was in the tag team title? Very, very talented individuals, by the way. Yeah. But their entire gimmick was, the U.S. It was right after the Iraq invasion, and France was not supporting us.
Yes, that's
completely.
When all the French fries were called freedom fries.
They were freedom fries, right? Yeah.
Freedom fries.
Don't get me started. But anyway, so the point is, WWE has dabbled that way still, even in this millennium. So multiple times that we pointed out. So we'll see. You got to hit pop culture.
At what stage, Dave, did you sort of sheepishly and quietly go back to French fries?
That's a good question.
Was there like an email went round that's just like, all right, lads, just sort of from tomorrow on, don't make a big deal out of it. Just start slipping it in the conversation.
We just always called them chips, Dave. That's how we got around that whole.
Right. That's how you got around it. We said, hey, remember that whole NATO thing that we're protecting you with? Yeah, we'll call them French fries if you up your spending a little. Cool. Okay, yeah, we good. That's all it was.
We'll take your word for it. Dave's our on the ground American correspondent. So everything he says, we just have to take his word on it, right? All right, lads. So switching gears, speaking of Extreme Rules, right? So to put this into perspective, I watched this on, Saturday night into Sunday, as did Martin. Dave was there. Right, so Dave was actually in the arena. The Welsh
our man on the ground.
Exactly, our man on the ground.
Is that my pick for the evening?
Yeah, absolutely.
The journalist on the ground.
Did you send your expenses report in, by the way, Dave?
Yeah, we'll see if they ever get filed. Yeah,
before the end of the month. Now, come on.
Yeah, they've been submitted, but apparently it wasn't triplicate, so I don't know.
But yeah, so look, kind of going into this, I didn't watch the show week to week because I'm still kind of where you are, Martin, where I'm not fully on board with WWE because we've all been hurt before, so I'm trying to ease myself back into it. But I have to say there were some things in this that I actually was excited about. I can't believe they went with a strap match for obvious reasons. The fight pit, I mean, it just looks so like the Lion's Den. I just wanted them to call it the Lion's Den.
Can we take it? Because I know you want to abridge it. Can we just start from the beginning and just roll the card?
Yeah, we will. Totally will. But I mean, going into this, it had enough to kind of pull me to want to watch it. So we're gonna go card by card here, and I'm gonna obviously hand this over to you guys because I am still sick at the moment. But for me, they're the two things that I actively wanted to see.
Okay. What was it for you, Martin? What were the matches that you were like, okay, if I'm going to tune in, I want to see this or this? Like, these are the things I'm kind of looking for.
So for me, the big thing was I thought this was going to be a one-match card. And for me, it kind of did end up being that way, but the opposite way around. I thought it would be the fight pit. That is the one I was really looking forward to because the last two have been brilliant. Riddle is brilliant, and Rollins, even though he's intolerable outside of bell to bell, but when the bell rings, he's excellent. I don't
know. In real life, it might be flipped.
That it was the opener for me on the night. But yeah, in terms of what I wanted to see was the fight pit. I was kind of intrigued by what they were going to do with Karrion Kross, and then obviously I'm sure we'll all at some stage get to the big reveal.
Yeah. Yes, which was the most obvious thing in the world. I mean, yeah, we'll get to that, but I'm kind of sad he's not on Impact. I would have enjoyed having Wyatt.
Get out of here. You're fired.
I'll be honest.
So
I was just relieved he didn't show up in AEW.
Well, I mean, you have to be able to wrestle to go in AEW, man. Come on, like that's not his strong suit. Everything else is just not that.
Well, I'll tell you what. From my perspective, and from somebody who has actually since SummerSlam been watching Raw and SmackDown.
Oh wow!
Consistently. I don't know what it is. I don't know what. I mean, it's Triple H, you could say, but
of course it is.
It's been bringing me in. And if anybody watched Monday night, which I'll talk about at the end of the show, obviously, I mean, this is playing right into everything I love. But so Friday night during SmackDown, the promo was amazing that Triple H gave at the beginning to just open the show. He flipped over his mic partway through, had a QR code on it. I actually, in real time, was like, you know what? I've never done this. Let me just do it. Pulled up the QR code, didn't watch it before I showed my fiance. Very creepy. But the important thing was
scan random QR codes. That's a bit of cybersecurity.
No, I understand. Yeah, no, I'll put that on my resume.
Don't scan random QR codes you find in random places.
No, and especially not in this world of no-click viruses that we're seeing right now. But anyway, so our jobs aside,
you should know better, Dave.
We should. But anyway, so I scanned the QR code, but it wasn't the video or whatever that clued me off. The name of the website was the date. And I didn't go to look that up or anything. I just on my phone saw 10/8/22. That's tomorrow night. And then at the end of SmackDown, the very end, they once again played a White Rabbit promo. And this time they were blatant. They put the date. They kept flashing tomorrow night. So all of us there, it was a really long line. This was not a show you had to worry about selling tickets for. It was packed. There was a line to get in even. But so from the time we were all filtered in, even during the pre-show, everybody was chanting for Bray Wyatt. But still, even though we all, it's the worst kept secret in all of professional wrestling. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
But it's wrestling. And the problem with that is you never know until it actually happens.
Yeah, that's
so until... And we'll get to the end.
Subject to change.
Yeah. Until you actually heard he's got the whole world in his hands, everybody went from chanting for Wyatt to just... that might be the best live reaction I've ever been a part of in my entire life. And maybe
was that CM Punk chant?
No. Not a single one. Nobody cares.
I think those days are over.
No, so I guess I'll kick things off with the show. So one of the really cool things, like I was saying, is I was blessed with really great tickets for this show. Just happened to pick the perfect section, I'll say. Let's put it that way. A lot of times you can go to a show and cool, you watched it. Now I'm going to go rewatch it at home to see like what actually happened. But this show is different for me. I was surrounded by die-hard wrestling fans. And I mean die-hard. They knew every facet of AEW, Impact, and WWE, and every single storyline that everybody's in. Like super, super fans, which was cool. I took my brother for his 18th birthday, casual fan. He's the Logan Paul target audience. Right. So, and he tunes in when Logan Paul's on. So it works. But where you sit in an arena definitely can affect how much you enjoy a show. Because if you're just watching on the Tron the whole time, or if you can actually see the ring from your seat, or if they're just wrestling next to you during a match, it amplifies things. But where we were, we could perfectly see the pre-show set up. We could perfectly see the announcers. All the entrances were great. There was no obstruction. And we were the heart of the chants getting started. A lot of them came from the ring, and it was funny. I wasn't sitting ringside, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying a lot of them came from where we were. And we'll talk about the Bayley match later, but you want to know who was doing those Let's Go Bayley chants and started turning that match around? It was my section, 111, by far. So it was just a really cool, it was out of every show I've attended, and I've been to AEW, I've been to TNA, I've been to WWF, I've been to WWE, pay-per-views, TV, house shows, all of them for pretty much all those companies, plus all the indies. This is the absolute best experience I've ever had sitting in an audience for a wrestling show. Now, mind you, this is the Philadelphia market. Yeah. This is Extreme Rules. We are infamously one of the best crowds to go to, but this was special. And what made it special was the people that I was surrounded by.
Right. And
that's kind of an intangible that makes me super biased when we'll go into grading this. But man, the passion that that crowd had and the passion that they didn't have, which I'll get into when we talk about matches, really helped clued me in, because I like to always say I try and examine topics from all different sides. Like, listen, I live in the West, but if you think I'm not also listening to what China, Russia, and Iran are saying at the same time, I'm not going to get an accurate picture of what's actually happening in the Ukraine. So I got to listen to everything. So with wrestling in particular, I have Jenna is at home. Casual fan. She was watching on TV just to let me know, like, hey, I saw you here. Like, you were on camera here. I was on camera a bunch. That was really cool. And more cool for my brother, because like his friends that were watching were like Snapchatting him pictures of himself on screen. So that was great. But like,
did you have a sign, Dave?
No sign at all. No sign necessary. For this one, didn't need. They knew where I was. I didn't need a sign for them to know.
Can't believe we didn't have.
You missed the old days of wrestling though, when they all had like the whole crowd.
I do, but I could see. I could see those. So that might be the flip side of it.
Yes.
The thing about Martin is, though, and Dave, we've gone through very creative signs that have shown up back then. That
creative is a generous word for a lot of them.
It's a generous.
Yeah, I don't want to see. I would rather see. How do I phrase this for PG? Take your, out for the audience. Then follow this person on Twitter. Listen to this podcast. Like, go to this YouTube channel.
Dave, honest to God, I made this exact point, I think, on one of the last shows we did. I am all for signs, make them creative, make them fun. But my God, am I so sick of fans going to shows and holding up signs promoting their own bloody podcast.
Yeah, going into business for themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
what? Are you there to enjoy the show, or are you there to try and get some clout? Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't get that.
Who's watching Brock Lesnar tip over the ring and going, ooh, WrestleNuts.net? I better give that a go.
That's what I would have tuned into.
I have to say, though, the only modern signs that I do actually enjoy is the random references to old video games that are all through AEW signs.
Yeah. I
think that's pretty brilliant.
Yeah. Or I like the ones like MJF eats a kiwi from the bottom. It's just really, really specific, weird insults.
But no, it's very cool, Dave, that you have that kind of insight. Because I mean, like, I've never been to a WWE pay-per-view. I've been to house shows, Raw, SmackDown, TNA shows, all that kind of stuff. But I've never actually been to a WWE pay-per-view. So there obviously is a little bit different in the way WWE do things. Is very, very regimented. I've never been to an AEW show. But, I mean, the best wrestling place you can go is the Impact Zone. You can't go there anymore because it doesn't exist. But the Impact Zone was gas. And I think that skews the way all other wrestling is done because of the way they shoot it or stuff like that. So, I mean, it's interesting. For example, you said you could see yourself on TV there a lot.
I couldn't in the arena. Don't get me wrong. In the arena, I had no idea. It wasn't until I got home. Right. I was getting texts. My brother was getting texts, but it wasn't until I got home and you guys got the group chat message where I was screenshotting stuff and to no response. By the way, they could care less that their co-host was like ecstatic about this.
We were happy for you.
I appreciate that, hearing it now when you're put on the spot. But so
we were asleep.
This is true. This is also true.
I sat there for a week, no response. Like, are we even doing this show? But no. So, but my point is, no, we couldn't see. I just had to be careful. I just knew we were going to be on TV, so kept that in my mind throughout the show. But
very cool though.
What really? Cool. But one of the things that happens, what the point I was trying to get to before my mind did its usual disorganized tangent, which please rein me in so I stay on topic, but is I was getting the insight of, Jenna's at home and she's saying, "Oh, this is really cool," and to me in the audience, I'd be like, "Oh, that was okay, cool." Like I see a casual fan that's just getting into wrestling. They think that's interesting. I've seen it 1,000 times, so I'm like, all right, next. So that perspective is good. Or my little brother. Again, I told you I took him for his 18th birthday. Again, a casual fan. Literally your Logan Paul target demographic. He was like, "They boo Logan Paul. Why?" And it was like around us because he's a terrible human being. He's like, "Oh, I like him." But that's exactly the point. He casually follows wrestling, but if he enjoyed the show more than I did, I would say. I mean, it reignited that fandom. And that's what I love about WWE. If they do their stuff correctly, even if they only put on an average show, but they make the people in the audience feel like they're part of it, that's going to long-term keep those stadiums, keep those specific arenas with their attendance full. And then the final thing that then I always have to take into account is what is actually happening in the arena versus when I go home and I watch it and I listen to what they pump in on the audio, because that's what always interests me. And I think that'll come up a lot because there were definitely people that got no reaction that may have gotten reaction on TV. And there's people that got reverse reactions that may have been corrected that you'll have to tell me about. So I'm looking forward to talking about this show. I absolutely adored it from the audience perspective. How it played out on TV, I don't know, but I can tell you being there was phenomenal.
Before we get into this proper, there is a point that I just need to make real quick. Last year's Extreme Rules, I think we can remember this, only had one Extreme Rules match.
Yeah.
Only had one hardcore match, period. All the rest of them were either straight matches where just it was a triple threat or a singles match, or else it was there was a couple of tag matches there as well. So this was a marked improvement. You could tell the show had a lot more stakes to it. It kind of fit in to the gimmick a little bit more. I mean, I'm not a big fan of gimmick pay-per-views. I do like Extreme Rules in general, but I think this is the best way you do it, where you have gimmicks on the show. But I have to say, an old-fashioned Donnybrook match. Now, for our listeners who don't live in Ireland, Donnybrook is a district of Dublin, on the south side of Dublin, very close to where RTE is.
Strangely, one of the posher ones as well.
It's a posh area of
Donnybrook
Dublin.
is the last place you'd find a Donnybrook.
Exactly. Now, it's bizarre. I would have called it something else, but
Fingless.
Well, they wanted to call it the Cracker Barrel match, but AEW already has that, so they call it something different. What? Can somebody tell me what was up with those barrels? Like, come on, guys, you're copying the wrong company. Don't copy the failures, copy the successes.
A good old fashioned Ballymun.
I mean, these would be better. Would these really better gimmicks, But Donnybrook was bizarre. It must mean like a battle or a row or something. But I mean, when you Google it goes
back to, I think, one of them old John Wayne films, like the Quiet Man or something.
So here we go. So according to
not Genghis Khan, because that's the best John Wayne film of all time.
Yeah, although Genghis Khan, as wide as his empire was, never quite made it to Ireland.
No, and you gotta love that he didn't even try. It's don't. By the way, if you're listening to this and you're taking me seriously, don't watch that movie. It's not good. But definitely watch that movie if you're in the right psychological mindset, because you will laugh forever.
When they were shooting that movie, they were testing nukes out in the Mojave Desert.
That's great.
And a lot of the cast in that movie died from cancer as a result. So,
well, we all watched the movie, so
wild. Okay, so Google Donnybrook, a scene of uproar and disorder, heated argument. Apparently, it's North American and Australian, but it's weird, man, because you go to and then in Irish, it's the Han Brock, the Church of Saint Brock. These mean completely different things. So
I would say it's one of those things that's used in North America and Australia as a reference to Ireland, but isn't used here. Like you'd never hear anyone here say "top of the morning" Or
How
we
confused?
don't really sing Danny Boy here.
You think Sheamus would have said something though? He's like, listen, I'm from a rough area. Can we call it something else? Because this makes no sense.
Yeah, Sheamus is going, wait, I'm getting a push again because I used to work out with you, Triple H. I'm going to keep my mouth shut and just keep on going. And
that's fair.
But before we get to that match, I'm assuming this wasn't shown on the pre-show because it was very played up for the audience. So
no, this was shown on the show.
No. I mean, this was what I'm about. Sorry, my brain did the jump ahead and talk about something for I reference what I'm talking about. Did they show Jerry the King Lawler before that match or no?
I didn't see him.
Okay, so what they did for us in the audience. So for those that don't know, WrestleMania, not this upcoming year, but 2024 is happening in Philadelphia. If you want to come, let me know. We are very much looking forward to it. So they're having it at where the Philadelphia Eagles play, which is right next to the Wells Fargo Center where we were at. So what they did before the match, or before the show started rather, and right before, they brought Jerry the King Lawler out, which got a great pop. They brought out the Philadelphia Eagles cheerleaders, got a great pop. They had a Liberty Bell set up on the stage. They brought out the mascot for the 76ers, which is different than Gritty, who you saw interacting with The Miz throughout the pay-per-view. And they revealed live for the first time, and if you want to put this up, Dara, in post, what the logo is for WrestleMania in 2024. And that was really cool to get the hometown audience pumped for the show that was happening that night, and also looking forward a year and a half into the future. So I didn't know if that made the air, or if that was just something for us in the audience there to get us the pop and excited.
Oh, it is very cool. Yeah, it's very cool. Very good. It's a WrestleMania XL, which isn't extra large. It's obviously
40.
Roman numeral 40.
Roman numerals. Will Roman still be champ? Oh boy.
Oh
boy. Going back to Roman numerals after all these years. This scares me.
I've actually seen the Liberty Bell. The Liberty Bell's cool. I have a small miniature one downstairs.
I mean, yeah, it's got a crack in it. Otherwise, it's pretty cool. So they I mean, just make your bells correctly. It's not that complicated. I've been
every time you say Liberty Bell, I just keep thinking of the main character from Glow.
I thought you were going to say from The Simpsons. Liberty Bell, Liberty Bell, lemon.
And so then what I think you guys saw, and you're welcome, Nerd to Know fans, because I know they covered every episode of The Simpsons for like 20 seasons. But
this is true, yeah.
Then what they cut to, which I think made the broadcast, was Paul Heyman's intro, which, given that it's a Philly crowd, what better way to play up Extreme Rules than having Paul Heyman introduce the fact that it's Extreme, it's in Philly, this is happening. So you had the WrestleMania logo reveal, you had the Paul Heyman intro. The crowd was so hot. And Sheamus, I said 12 years ago, he's adorable. I continue that into he has just become an unstoppable monster that they need to capitalize on, because at this point, he is getting better reactions than he was during his world title reign. I will trade what he is doing now against Gunther over watching him push John Cena off the top turnbuckle through the table to win a title by miraculous occurrence that he doesn't keep for that long. This is what we always needed out of Sheamus, and he's showing what he can deliver. And let me tell you, even 7 rows back that I was in the not ringside seats, like the first section, we were 7 rows back, like you could see how red his chest was from their match that they had on SmackDown Friday night. I don't know if you guys caught it. It was brutal. It was the main event for Friday as the go-home match, and he was still beat red. We could see it from our seats. Throughout the match, it just got worse. It was. We talk about you got to start with a hot match to get the crowd excited. WWE did that, and they went beyond it with 2 other things to get the crowd into the show, and I think it paid dividends for our interest level. At least they're live.
Sheamus was always great. They just hamstrung him by having him screw over Bryan Danielson. Like otherwise, I think he would have gotten over really well. But it was like when when they had the Royal Rumble was the next year, and everyone thought he was going to be number 30, and then it was Rey Mysterio, and everyone booed him out of the building. It wasn't that they hated Rey. It was that they wanted Danielson. I think it was the same with Sheamus. I think Sheamus could have done really well, only they kicked off his reign by having him screw over the most popular guy in the building.
You know what, though? Because Darren and I talked about this at length at the time, and I don't want to distract from Extreme Rules, but the best thing that ever happened to Daniel Bryan was getting beaten in 28 seconds or 48 seconds, whatever it was, at WrestleMania, because that catapulted him from what could have been a one-night or two-night, the crowd's popping for you, they're really crazy, they really want to see you, to no, this guy, we are getting behind, we will no longer see any disservice done to him. I think that was the most important night of Daniel Bryan's career and the best thing that possibly could have happened, because there's no yes movement if Sheamus doesn't destroy him in seconds. And as much as I hated it at the time, and as much that I was there, as much as I didn't, that's not what I paid to see. I paid to see a match. Yeah. But if I'm looking long term, I mean, it paid off.
That's a really good assessment.
So Martin, Dave obviously gave his rundown of this match. What did you think about it?
Well, my rundown will be in 3 parts and twice as long as Dave's. No joke. It's interesting. I don't know if you remember, we had a crack about this exact pay-per-view a couple of months ago, Dara. When Triple H took over, we were like, okay, well, SummerSlam's kind of a given because it's probably already booked and done, and it's got Brock coming in, and it's kind of a sort of an open goal. And then the next pay-per-view is Clash at the Castle. So that has the novelty of being, in Wales for the first time. It's going to have an insanely hot crowd, being overseas and all will give it a whole. So it kind of can't fail either. And we had both said that Extreme Rules will be the real test for Triple H, because it's just it's a run-of-the-mill pay-per-view. It's, going to require, like, people aren't tuning in for Extreme Rules the way they do for, one of the big 4. So it's going to require build and interesting stories and stuff like that. So we had said that this would be kind of the real test for Triple H. So I was pretty interested to see how this went. As I said earlier, on the night, I thought the Fight Pit was going to be the match of the night. I was really surprised that it was the opener, but I'm like, give me Sheamus, Walter every day, all day. Apart from that, however, and I know that Dave was in the audience, and that's a whole different atmosphere. For me, this was aggressively average. Nothing, maybe apart from the Rousey Morgan match, was egregiously bad, but nothing else apart from the opener was really good, really noteworthy. What I would say is, though, again, WWE's in this whole high at the moment. So if you're a WWE fan, this is a great pay-per-view for you. For me, the style they have just doesn't mesh well with the whole, extreme thing. It's very, it's very overproduced. It's very over-polished. And like a kind of thing like a Donnybrook brawl or a good old fashioned Donnybrook. It's so, WWE is so controlled, you never get the sense that it's actually going to be like, like a wild, insane brawl. Yeah. So for me, this had a ceiling. Now, what I will say is that the opening match was great, and I thought, wow, they're really going to pull this off. And I was very disappointed and really surprised with the finish. The other thing I noted was that this was 3 hours and 10 minutes with 6 matches on it. And I was so surprised by how much this really dragged. Like, again, apart from the opener.
Oh, sorry. But you see what happens when you don't. So the last show I was on, we were talking about AEW, and what was the biggest downside? We talked about, 14 matches? They tried to stuff in. So this is the opposite extreme, no pun intended, of six matches. But they got appropriate time, and a lot happened in between. But I do see your point.
Balance between the two of them, like again,
they were still running out of time.
Matches. on a show is a
running
lot.
out of time.
You see,
So
so
there has to be a sort of an between 14 matches on a show and 6 matches with these huge sort of cavernous gaps in between.
So
it cuts up the flow.
I think.
So I think. Oh, sorry, but what I think I'm going to talk over you anyway. So what I think is, but what I think a lot of that time that you guys are talking about that seemed kind of dead in the arena was a lot of setup, because one of the things that happens with it being an Extreme Rules pay-per-view and having different stipulations for every match like they should is you need time to get stuff set up. You need time to get the barrels out of there. You need time to get the table set up for Liv. You need time for all those things to occur. So I will agree. But there was so much camaraderie that time passed fast for us. But what struck me, and this is never, I guess my seats at a show have just never been in the particular aisle where I would have seen this. This was the first time ever where I could see the production clock that they hold behind hard camera. I mean,
true. Yeah. Do you have it on Raw as well? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, all they show. I mean, it's not like it's anything special. It just literally tells you what time it is.
Yeah.
And this will become a factor later, but you forget. Okay, it's a PLE nowadays, so we don't have to worry about paying the unions over if we go past the mark, or not the unions, rather paying the pay-per-view provider if we go over, or it just abruptly cuts off. They can afford to go to 11:10, 11:15. So when the final match starts and we're all looking at the clock from our seats and going, there's 20 minutes. How's this going to be a good match? There's supposed to be some reveal of what's going to happen. It left us in a lot of suspense just from that. And also the amount that's done, this doesn't get enough appreciation. And I'm not just kissing people for this, but yes, I could certainly say I'm not allowed to say butt. I'm not trying to kiss butt is what I was trying to say about this. But yes, I can see the side of, WWE's overproduced, you don't know, blah, blah, blah. Dude, the amount of, because I love tech, obviously. It's the industry I'm in, this industry dares. And I also love video work. I've done video editing for years. So the amount of technical stuff and production stuff that was done in between all those breaks, whether it was setting up, breaking stuff down, fixing a table that got broken, reconfiguring the pre-show set, running wires different places, all of this happening in pitch darkness blew me away. Like sometimes you forget watching that camera is 12 inches from the wrestler's face. But when you're standing there next to the wrestler and the camera guy's, kind of talking to you at the same time, like it's a totally different, you're like, oh my goodness, like you forget about that. It's like going to see a comedian film a special live and you realize that there's a camera in between you and them and it catches you off guard. But the amount that they are able to do is absolutely astounding. And there's no company on earth that runs the schedule WWE does and runs the production quality that WWE does as a touring company. And it's unrivaled in the world. And that astounds me because what they do is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing.
I was going to make a point. So I was going to make 2 points. One, I think the balance here is that WWE is always going to have that production, right? It's like going to see, and AEW balances out by being a bit more edgy and a bit more grungy. It's like WCW, right? We watch a lot of WCW here. WCW always had that. It looked like WCW, even to the toys. You got the Titantron toy and then you got the Arena toy in WCW, which felt like WCW. It has its own thing. And I mean, that's a kind of hard thing to readjust to it. But as you said, the production thing is very, very apt. Where you see that a lot is when you go to gigs, right? And a lot of bands, they'll just come on and they'll play their set, right? But then there's other bands like Behemoth or whatever who have a big stage show. That takes time to set up. And I don't know about you guys, if you go to gigs, there's sometimes a half an hour changeover. I went to go see Behemoth 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there was a half an hour changeover, Martin. So I mean, you're looking at a big curtain,
Yeah, but I'm it's undoubtedly like a huge and as Dave said, an incredibly impressive feat that they pull off, even with just like the weekly shows. But that's not my concern.
No,
like,
I mean,
if I'm sitting watching it on the telly, I'm only reviewing it how it felt as a television production.
Oh no, absolutely. But
okay, I'm just gonna come out and say it. Screw it. Are we? We're not past 50.
No, we're not.
Okay.
We're not.
Oh, stall.
Okay. Well, look, just let me finish this thought, right? So, obviously, when we go to after FM, we will be getting a bit more. The gloves come off, I suppose.
And it gets raunchy, listeners. It gets so raunchy.
No. Hold on.
Once we go off,
no. All right.
Phoenix FM. The gloves come off and the trousers come off.
Oh my God.
I do love you trying to suck the people in, but I think this is important. More important than sucking people, I think, is this comment. So, I think
okay.
After the water said, Dave.
What I'm saying is, when I'm sitting, okay. So for those that don't know, and this was completely by chance. This isn't something that was planned or whatever. I happened. I'm not going to mention who. At the house that we ended up purchasing about half a year ago that we've been living in, the guy that previously owned it, that sold it to me, is
Shane McMahon.
Is Shane McMahon? No, but he had a picture of himself with Shane McMahon.
Cool.
I can't be too specific. Let's just say has a really, really high role in TV production for WWE. So it's rhymes with
Rick Bond.
No, it doesn't. So what I'm trying to say is it's kind of weird because I'll be laying in bed and thinking the room that I'm watching this in is where the guy that's calling the shots for what to put on TV used to sleep. It's a very, very weird world for me in wrestling right now. So I'm paying attention to details I don't normally pay attention to. Like, wow, how did they get those wires up here into that aisle in time for that? That was astounding. So that's when I say the production, I'm not talking necessarily just what you're seeing on TV, but also what they're doing behind the stage. And I guess I can't say that either, but let's just say somebody he's close to is the person that creates all those graphics that are really, really wonderful. Those 3D graphics that now every sport has started to copy WWE for. And they add such a huge element if you're watching at home. So it's become a very unique experience. It's definitely made me biased, but it's definitely become a very unique experience. So I've definitely paid far more attention to production now that I have a line to production, if you will.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is, it's like, it is kind of hard to, when you do see stuff like this, I think it's a valid point that Martin made, that having these big gaps. Because I mean, one of the reasons I don't like going to festivals is because they are these huge, well, there's many reasons, but one of the reasons is these huge gaps in production where you're like, it looks amazing, but the setup is quite a lot. But then again, that is the trade-off by having these matches. Like an Extreme Rules match, fair enough, doesn't take that long to set up, but like the 5-pit match, I'm assuming took ages. It's like when you see a cage match and it takes ages when you actually set it up at the.
We didn't know the ropes are coming off. Like, do you understand? Like, within 5 minutes, not only did they get that cage down, they got the ropes off.
Bear in mind, Dave, before you say it, do I understand? I spent 2 years working with a wrestling company, setting up rings, taking rings down, being the referee, doing all that crack.
You make a valid point, Martin, and I'm not taking anything away from your experience, but how many of those were watched by millions and millions of people, and how many of those did you do in pitch blackness in 5 minutes before they went live for international television?
Six of them.
Okay.
No, none of them. They were all in Cork.
No, and I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to put you down, because trust me, indie shows are my favorite thing in the world to go to. If you're going to ask me, do I want to spend $150 per ticket to go to a WWE show, or do I want to pay $20, sit front row? Well, now it's more like 35, but like $35, sit front row and get to watch the next gen talents. I will take that every single day of the week over going to a WWE show.
And have guys beat all over you because you're a big fan of death matches.
Also, yes.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the thing about it is, it is interesting that we have this comparison.
You want to talk? Wait. That's a great point, though. You want to talk about setup? Do you know what it's like to go to a tournament of death and wait for them to set things up?
No, I can imagine.
We've had hour-long breaks where they have to wrap the rope or take the ropes off, put barbed wire in place of the ropes, put light tubes in between all those barbed wires. Make sure you tape everybody up, stitch everybody up backstage.
But Dave, I wasn't.
I've been there for that.
But I was never ever saying that this isn't hugely impressive stuff. I'm purely and only saying that as a TV viewer, it entirely breaks up the flow of it. Like, I got a secret saying that this isn't impressive.
I got a secret for you. If you aren't watching the weekly shows, those promos they show really catch you up. They do a great job on them. No. Or B, I'm sorry they didn't use the music you like there. But hold on. I can't get to B. Fine.
No, you can't get to B because we have to go to break in a second. But before we do, I just want to say one thing, right? What they could do is instead of having those promos, I'm sorry, Dave, I don't care how well they're produced. They're tiresome. They could have UFC do. Hold on. No.
When I don't watch wrestling for a month, I want to watch a pay-per-view, and they want to show me 5 minutes where they explain the entire angle.
Cut the mic.
I get invested.
We have to go to break. Thank you, Dave. We have to go to break. All right, folks. So we'll be back with this wonderful debate over on over on Nerd to Know Media, the WrestlingRewind.com, and of course the True Penny channel. You can get the show free every day, unedited, uncensored, all that kind of good stuff. And of course, if you do go along as well, because I think this is going to be long, because we've covered one match in an hour. So we're gonna go over there. And again, thank you so much for joining us here on the Wrestling Rewind on Phoenix 92.5 FM. We do appreciate your support, and we're here because of you. So thank you so much for my two co-hosts. We'll see you after this short break here on the Wrestling Rewind.
Gloves off, trousers off.
You have nothing else to do on a Saturday? Do you like nerd things? Now check out Nerd to Know Basis here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then head over to nerdtoknowmedia.com for all of our shows as part of the Nerd to Know Media radio network.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.
Alright folks, and we're back here on the Wrestling Rewind, where hopefully we get back on course, Dave and Martin. Of course, this is the extended segment because in an hour we covered one match. So.
Yeah, I'm not staying up till 4 a.m., so we can't spend an hour per match.
The point I was going to make though before break, and just let me get it out, right?
Yeah.
What they could do is when you're watching UFC and when they have some time over, they do show matches, right? Now, obviously, that's a little bit different because they're real matches. They're not predetermined, spectacles. What they could do is...
what are you saying about wrestling? Are you telling me that's not real?
I'm sorry, Dave. It's the Easter Bunny isn't real either, and that isn't coming.
Still real to me, damn it.
But no, the point I was making, like, they could have, 205 Live or some kind of, or even Heat. They should bring back Heat and just have like Heat matches during those cool down segments. Because look, what Martin is saying is correct. No matter how good those video packages are, I'm not watching a pay-per-view for the video packages. I'm watching it for in-ring action. And it's one thing that AEW do is make better use of that time, and WWE could do that. But I think we'll get that eventually. I mean, back in WWE's heyday, in the Attitude Era and stuff like that, they would have that kind of stuff. They'd replay stuff from Heat. They would have extra matches and like that. WWE just need to use that time a little bit better, and I think that would be good. Right, now let's try to be good here, lads.
They did do some of that stuff. There's like, oh god, they did do some of that stuff. To be fair, with Miz, and that went over well with the live audience. But at the same time, I've gone, I think we all have, where we take breaks from wrestling for a bit. And so if I don't watch the product for a month, 2 months, and then I tune into a pay-per-view, at least they're giving me 3 to 5 minutes of top-notch video production that's going to clue me in on this is the storyline, these are the main beats, this is what's happened, this is now your match. This is why it's occurring. And that's really helpful for a casual fan. And I guess because we're more diehard fans, maybe to us it's less appealing. We'd like to see that time filled with something else. But I think it really helps the pay-per-view or PLE only watching audience so much more than we're giving it credit for.
Well, look, folks, obviously, let us know. You can let us know on the social media. TheWrestlingRewind.com is where our social media is, because we want to know if you agree with that or where you stand on it. But let's try to be good and get through these matches. So, Martin.
Yes.
Ronda Rousey defeated Liv Morgan. And of course, the Brawling Brutes defeated Imperium in the good old fashioned Donnybrook match.
Didn't even get to the finish.
No, we didn't get to the finish, but we are moving on because it took us an hour. So Ronda Rousey defeated Liv Morgan by technical submission in an Extreme Rules match for the Women's Championship. So Ronda Rousey is your SmackDown Women's Champion. Martin, what do you think about this? How did it come across on TV? Any criticism or praise?
I think that's pretty good, Dar. I think what we'll do is now we'll break these down into a TV review and a live.
Yeah.
That's smart.
It only took me an hour to figure it out, but there we go.
Yeah. So this was for me. This was like I said, the only real disaster of the night. I don't know what it was. The hits didn't land. The thing with the bat was stupid. Like, Liv is supposed to be the baby face, and she's coming out with the weapon, and then she gets disarmed by the heel, and then instead of using it on her, the heel throws it away. The impact of the moves, the strikes wasn't convincing. The finish, the kind of weird submission they got in at the end looked so awkward that I now know, like, in the past week from listening to different shows and that the fact that Liv was smiling while she was being tapped out is apparently going to lead on to some storyline somewhere down the line. But on the night, the submission looked so weird and so awkward that it looked like she was laughing just because they couldn't get it in place right. Nothing about this worked. Nothing about it worked.
Okay. And Dave?
Yeah, so it was a couple years ago during Ronda's first run. Raw was same arena. And, I'm always back and forth. I feel like spending the money, parking, all that. Like, I just watch it on TV. I get a better view. And I said, you know what? This might be my chance to see Ronda Rousey, so I'm paying to go see Ronda Rousey. And it was great. She was a face at the time. And I've become such a huge Liv Morgan fan. I have a chair right here next to me that has her face on it from the last pay-per-view before it was Elimination Chamber before the pandemic.
It's after the watershed now, Dave, so you're allowed to say that you sit on Liv Morgan's face.
My daughter was earlier while watching Elmo, but so but the point is I'm trying to get to is, what actually surprised me is when and I have to ask, so this is where I'm going to ask, did this come across differently on TV? So Ronda's music hits and she's the heel, and listen, I'm there for Liv Morgan. I love Liv Morgan. She's not the best. She's still green, but she's come so far in the past year that I just want her to succeed. She's got the look. She's got everything. Just she botches a lot. So hopefully we can get over that at some point. But man, I was there for Liv Morgan this time, not Ronda. But the two matches I was looking the most forward to, ironically, were the women's matches, which, yeah, you're right, listeners. I actually said that. So but something instinctual inside of all of us in the arena happened when Ronda's music hit. And I don't know if it's just because it's a great theme and also because it's Ronda Rousey. When her music hit, we all jumped up and cheered and then remembered, oh no, she's the bad guy. Uh-oh. And then Liv Morgan was almost no reaction whatsoever. So I'm curious, did they pump in stuff for Liv on the broadcast? Because it was dead in the arena when she came out.
I actually have a kind of a theory around that. I'm a big Ronda Rousey fan. I think she was great.
Too.
She came into wrestling like no background and picked it up like almost at Kurt Angle speed. So I'm a big Ronda Rousey fan. I think she was really done dirty by fans the last time round in her previous run. They really turned on her for no reason whatsoever.
That's true.
She has a genuine love of wrestling. She was really giving it her all. She was doing better than a lot of tenured veterans were. And I think maybe with the wee bit of time since she's been away, some of the fans have sort of stepped back and looked at the reactions that were given her and thought, oh, she really didn't deserve that. And I think now this is a bit of a retcon. So whenever she does come out, my theory is that, yeah, there's fans who feel kind of bad about the way she was treated previously. And now their instinct is to, like you say, even though she's the heel, she's coming out, their instinct is to cheer.
So
But
my,
did they-
so
to
my
my-
theory is on this. I
But
have
to
a
my
theory.
question, just before you get to the theory, but to my direct question, so it was almost dead when Liv's music hit, even when she was, doing the turnbuckle stuff in the ring. On TV, on the broadcast, did they pump in cheers for her,
No.
or was it as dead
No,
as it sounded in the ring?
this was a very quiet, and
Yeah, there was no
particularly from the previous match, this was noticeably quiet.
Yeah, no, there was. I don't think they're sweetening audio anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
it was that shocked me. That shocked me. That was maybe the biggest shocker of the night. Was, oh boy, she's not over. Maybe it's Philly. Maybe it's not like her in Philly. I don't know, but
So my theory on this is that Philly were just doing what I do at house shows, where I boo the faces and cheer the heels.
we do that all the time. That's fair.
It's fun. That's what you do. You just, and then you upset everybody around you and you have a good time. I mean, you do. Anyway.
As for the match itself, I thought it was all right. I loved the Liv spot through the table off the top turnbuckle. That was a cool spot for Liv. I knew she'd do it, and I knew she had already done it on SmackDown 2 weeks prior in a much more impressive fashion, but not to Ronda. And I got texts that were like, "Holy crap!" When that happened. So it played to a certain audience well. It was an okay match. It wasn't. It didn't come across as bad to us. It just came across as they're going to Saudi Arabia and they want to see Ronda Rousey, not Liv Morgan. So pretty sure we know who's winning this match, and Liv's not a believable opponent for her. I mean, that was the biggest talking point from people around me was, yeah, but if this is real life, this is over in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's a Brock Lesnar problem as well, but especially in the women's division. There's just nobody that you can put in front of Ronda. You kind of do it with Shayna, but you really can't put anybody in front of Ronda and make it believable. That
you can with this match type, and I think this match type.
Well, right, and that was what they were hoping is, and that's what did the whole match is. Let's see if Liv can eke it out. Let's see if Liv can do something, and
that's the story they were telling. But I agree with Martin on this though. It didn't have what I was expecting. And I was expecting them to kind of really tell that story. Liv Morgan's great. I do actually like her a great deal. But
she's my favorite. She's my favorite diva. And if you hate that I say that word, I don't care. She's my favorite diva that WWE has, but she still has work to do.
I love that you won't let go of diva, but you say PLE.
I only say it because I know you vowed last time I was on the show that you'll never say that.
Well, I'll tell you what,
you just did.
I'll never say
mission
it
accomplished.
We'll make a compromise. We'll make a compromise. You can say PLE, but you have to pronounce it ple.
Ple?
Wait, so how do you say pluv when you say ple? Like, is that your Man, I really hate that they replace these pluvs with these plus.
It's like someone having a stroke.
Tonight on ple.
But okay, so
it could be worse. They could name it something like Rampage.
Baby.
Right. So you know what though? I am glad they didn't call it this WrestleMania Extreme Rule or WrestleMania Revenge or Extreme Rules. So I mean, at least they're calming down. Or what was the one that they really lost their mind with it?
WrestleMania Backlash, right?
No, it was Extreme Rules. It was something.
WrestleMania Rewind or something?
The horror show.
The horror show. That was it. Oh my god.
That was when the plucked Rey Mysterio's ping pong ball out of his head.
Oh Lord, I can't believe that's the thing that happened, but it did, and it was awful. Anyway, Speaking of awful, we have the next match. And this was, Martin, we said this when we reviewed the CM Punk MGF strap match. We said it's hard to do them, and particularly when we were watching,
really hard, yeah.
And we were watching WCW as well. Like, there's a plethora of terrible strap matches. It's single-handedly the worst stipulation match in my opinion, unless you're a very select performer who can do them, and the list you can count on one hand. Most of that's Punk and Raven. They're the only guys that can really do a match. And JBL, yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't say Guerrero had a good one.
I wouldn't say it's the worst step. I would say it's probably the most difficult step.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I inherently it's not bad. It's just you are literally handicapping your wrestlers. There's so much they can do, and if they're not working together, no one gets over.
Just the mechanics of it. Yeah, just the mechanics of it are like, look at a wrestling ring. If a guy goes out through the middle rope and then instinctively rolls in under it, like that's it. That's a silly tangle that they have to dance around. Like,
but it also needs to be very bloody and very, very extreme.
Yeah,
and, you know what?
And that's why the JBL ones were, because they were cowbell matches.
Exactly. And
do you know what you need even more than blood, even more than extreme? A strap match hinges on one thing: sound.
Yeah.
You need to hear that crack, and if it doesn't echo through the arena, if everyone in that building doesn't, to some extent, feel, wince, feel it, then the whole thing's dead.
But this is why I really like the dog collar match as an idea as well, because it's Shane hurts, right? It blood opens up the hard way as well. It lends itself a lot more than just a strap match. Strap match, as you said, they really have to work on. There's a lot more aspects which you can't control, WWE or not. And this just, I know Karrion Kross, since he's come back or since he's debuted, because they pretended like he was never there, which I mean is a good thing.
Well, he wasn't there. The samurai gimp was there.
But yeah, so Karrion Kross didn't benefit from this. He would win.
Quang was there.
He defeated Drew McIntyre by pinfall. Scarlett is back as well, which is cool. I'm glad they had some sense and put them back together. McIntyre looked really bad in this match. I mean, it did nothing for him. It's a fall from grace for sure. But they, Martin, let's go with this on TV. What did you think of this on TV? And then we'll go to Dave.
Okay, so the first thing, and I'll be quick as I can. The first thing I'd say about Karrion Kross is, see that whole entrance and all that. See, in wrestling, you have to go all in. If you half-arse it or 70% or whatever, it's not going to look right. And that even goes in training, like when you're telling people to bump or roll or whatever, is don't second guess yourself, go all in, because otherwise you'll get hurt. It's the same with Karrion Kross's entrance. It worked in NXT because, like, maybe they were a wee bit more three sheets to the wind, the were a wee bit more experimental. It worked because they went all in with it. They did the black and white, they had the camera follow them, they had the smoke, the panning up. On the main roster, they're keeping the entrance, but they're not going with all the theatrics around it, and it's teetering on that line between like intimidating and farcical, and it's fallen into farcical far too much. In terms of the match, the whole thing, it just wasn't good. The whole thing with not putting on the strap at the start was stupid. The ending with the pepper spray again was terrible. Like, if Drew is, say, on the cusp of some sort of heel turn, like, beat him and have him be like, oh, I've lost something and I'm going to do whatever. But like, Karrion Kross didn't get over by coming out,
over on this.
acting like a petulant brat, and then having his girlfriend pepper spray.
This was a WCW match for me. That's what this felt like.
100, Dara. That is a perfect analogy. I spent 4 minutes there saying what you said in 3 seconds.
But you hit all the points on the head. Like, it's, we watch these shows from the past. People don't learn from them, and they repeat it. This could have been plucked straight from sold out 1997 or whatever, and that's what it kind of felt like. Dave, you were there in person. Did this come across any better in the arena?
I think worse.
Really?
Yeah. So one of the things that really shook me was during SmackDown was the first time I'd really saw Karrion Kross's entrance, and it blew me away. The way that Scarlett would be, and I didn't know it was Scarlett, but the way Scarlett was draped and then would end up behind him. And then when they were in the ring, like you said, the black and white and the smoke's coming in, there was such a cool mystique to it that I was like, okay, maybe I'll care about this match. I'm intrigued. Well, when you're in the audience, I mean, you realize everything's camera angles for that entrance, everything. So it doesn't play to the crowd well. Now, that said, this match was terrible, but it's not the worst strap match I've ever been in attendance for. Believe it or not, the worst ever was Sanjay Dutt versus, and I can't even remember who, maybe Jay Lethal in a strap tuxedo match where you first had awful. To undress your opponent from their tuxedo in a strap match before you could beat. It was awful. I was there for that TNA pay-per-view because they gave me tickets or else I wouldn't have been there. But
there's the next review.
No, Martin.
But
when we get into TNA,
no, I'm not. You're not going to be happy. But here's what I can tell you. This was the match where I met everybody around me because nobody cared. Nobody cared about this match at all in the crowd. The only thing we talked about. Whoa! Look at that outfit Scarlett's wearing. That's it. That was the only thing that stood out to anybody in the crowd was, that's a crazy outfit. Where are we going with this? Like that if the most impressive thing in your match is what your manager or whatever she technically is wearing, you got a problem. Yeah, you got a problem.
The technical term is floozy.
Yeah, it was boring, and it was nice meeting the people around me. Is all I can say.
I'm insisting we use that word because it really upsets the James Truepenny.
No, I mean, I'm sure Scarlett's, I don't know much about her. Maybe she's very talented in her own right. But all that stood out from this match was we met everybody around us and, whoa, what was Scarlett wearing? That was it. And if those are your talking points coming out of a match, you're in trouble. I didn't even know she sprayed pepper spray. That's how disengaged we were. Normally it's women's match, take a bathroom break. This was the match for everybody. Let's go hit up merch. This doesn't, we don't care.
That's fair. And that's the problem with the strap matches. It's, if I never saw another strap match again, I would, I wouldn't miss them. They need to go. They don't work. Dog collar matches can work if CM Punk, Raven, or JBL are in them, and that's about it. There's no one else who can really do them. It's just the way it is. And Raven, because he's the only one who mastered it. I think I said Raven.
Is he back? Did I see a thing in TNA where he's making he's coming back, or they gave him a thank you or something like that?
Probably. I mean, he deserves a Hall of Fame at least in Impact because he had one of the best runs of his entire career in Impact, which we will get to because that's a fantastic run. All right, next match, ladder match for the WWE Women's Championship. Bianca Belair defeated Bayley, which made me sad because I like Bayley a great deal. What did you think about this, Martin, on television?
I mean, Bayley can't be long for this world as a heel. Like, that crowd was just so desperate to cheer her.
Yeah, she's great.
Sorry.
The match was okay. Look, coming from the past two matches, it was a tremendous improvement. It wasn't great. It was weekly television good. If this was on, Raw or SmackDown, it was good. But I mean, in terms of a pay-per-view world title ladder match, it was very muted. It was very safe. It was a wee bit botchy, although I always would forgive botches in a ladder match because ladders are awkward and uncooperative. And like, of all the matches, like, wrestlers say ladder matches are the most difficult. John Moxley's getting chopsticks stuck in his head and exploding barbed wire and everything. He says the one thing he won't do is a ladder match. So it'd always be a lot more forgiving of them. But it was good. It was a decent match. Just, I think decent doesn't quite cut it for a pay-per-view world title match, you know?
Yeah, I think that's my my takeaway on this as well. Ladder matches are actually my favorite matches, period. And this just wasn't
when
up there.
they're done well, they're even better than strap matches.
Well, a bad bell movement is better than strap matches. I'll be honest with you.
Says the guy who hasn't taken the antibiotics yet. Wait a couple.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But no, I mean, look, the pedigree of ladder matches is a thing. It's a case that they've been overused so much that you can have these lackluster matches. This would have been much better being any other kind of match. I think that it's like what they do with Hell in a Cell, where they have match in a cell. Ladder matches can just be, we're gonna hit you with a ladder a little bit. We're gonna fool around, and you fall down, and I fall down, and then I there was nothing here that I liked. If Bayley had won, I would have been like, yay, but she didn't, so I didn't even get that. What did you think about it, Dave, in the crowd? Obviously, you guys all wanted Bayley to win as well. But, yeah. I mean, was it better in the crowd, or?
Yeah, it was actually. First of all, they got that set up so quickly in pitch black. It astounded me. But Bayley, as much as I love her, as much as she's a phenomenal heel, one of the best they have, such a nice break from happy, huggy, wacky, inflatable figures. She's just, her forte, she's not a high flyer. This wasn't the right type of match to put Bayley in. Now, that said, I do actually enjoy seeing a ladder match between just two people. I mean, you go through history. What are some of the best ladder matches of all time? I mean, yeah, you can say HBK versus Razor Ramon, whatever. I don't care. It was just the first. It wasn't actually that good if you rewatch it. But Jeff Hardy versus Undertaker, best ladder match 1v1 maybe ever. So there's always something special to me.
On that point, though, as well, sorry, you're right, because a really good ladder match as well is The Rock versus Triple H, who aren't actually high flyers either. I mean, that's what's cool about a ladder match. It's kind of like an equalizer in a lot of ways, and then it becomes a high flyer thing. So sorry,
especially if
Jericho Benoit.
Jericho Benoit, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Although what I would say very, very quickly is that Sean HBK was not the first ladder match. It was Sean Bret.
I know.
I'm not being pedantic, only because I'm a big Bret Hart guy, so
That's fair. No, we'll allow it.
I have to interject that.
He'll interject that whenever you ask. But all of that
channeling Bret.
Channeling. No, I mean, best there is. But that being said, Bianca is fit for this type of match. It was good. The finish made it great. That last move, that last suplex. Now, obviously, you could go, well, why wouldn't Bayley just throw the ladder away? It's insane that she would hold on to it. I get that, but it's pro wrestling. So you take that actual bump, that looked brutal in person, like brutal. We were astounded that happened, because that could go wrong so many ways.
That's fair.
Sunday.
That's a fair point. Some spots do land better.
So maybe stuff was rough during the match, and you knew you were going to have the damage control stuff and blah, 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 blah. But that's what made the match. And Bianca's super over at the end of the day. People love her. And, got to remember Fresh Prince of Bel-Air set in Philly. So there's a bit of a connection there for some of the fans. So
West Philadelphia specifically, I believe.
Born and raised, in fact. But the finish was really cool. The rest of the match was ladder match. Paul London, and I always said this best, I thought, and he said, I'm never going to be in a ladder match where my number one priority isn't always climb the ladder and win the title. If you're setting up superfluous ladders or doing things outside or setting up spots, you're missing the entire point of what the match is supposed to be. These are supposed to be competitors constantly running up that ladder to see if they can win the belt, to the point that they get so exhausted that they have to climb their way up the ladder, not this manufactured exhaustion, if you will. So not to harken back to one of my faves, but I thought he made a really good point on that topic. It was good in person, but like you said, spent most of the match cheering for Bayley against the people a couple sections away that were cheering for Bianca. So it was fun to participate in. And the finish was cool, so it played well for the audience. But was it a great ladder match that I'm going to go back and watch? No, it's not. I haven't rewatched it. I don't plan to rewatch it.
Fair. All right, we'll move on to the next match, which was very disappointing for me personally. I love Finn Bálor, really do.
Wait, you were disappointed? Oh, wow. Okay.
I was disappointed because I don't think it really did anything. It was a match that had this storyline, but it should have been for a belt. There should have been some kind of reason for this match happening other than
before I give thoughts, before even Martin does, I because I think this plays really, really, really key into this type of match, and this is my one thing I didn't like about it. I personally hate the concept of an I quit match that doesn't result in quitting.
Yeah,
this should have been Edge's career if he quits, or
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or Finn Bálor has to leave the Judgment Day if he quits. It had to be something like that, not just I can't keep going.
Yeah,
that's just my initial thought.
There was no. I'm happy Finn won, obviously. Edge being back was great, but I'm kind of over it now. And the Judgment Day thing, I don't think does anyone any favors. But this had to be for a title, a career. That would have been great, actually. A spot at, some kind of. There had to be stakes, and Martin, you'll appreciate this. AEW, at least when stuff happens, there are stakes. There's the win-loss. There's something going on other than we're having a match, and this really just felt like we're having a match. Now the I Quit match, which I do like when they're done well, when there's a reason for it. Okay, it was a match. It was a good match, but it shouldn't have been an I Quit match. A last man standing match, fair enough. That would have been a little bit more, a bit more believable as far as they're fighting for. But then again, what are they fighting for? What's the point? It's I hate you so much, I'm going to make you quit. Okay, but I'm going to be back next week. This doesn't resolve the problem. It was silly from my perspective. But Martin, what did you think?
This was 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
It was 3 minutes of a good, enjoyable, slightly sort of panto acted, but pretty good, enjoyable angle at the end, and 27 minutes of sheer drudging, plodding monotony. I got huge flashbacks to that endless last man standing match Edge had with Orton at the no crowd WrestleMania. Oh man, this was, and I really don't like saying this because I'm a huge Edge fan and a massive Finn Bálor fan. And not even just because the Irish link. I think Bálor's a genuinely incredible and underutilized, at least till now, underutilized wrestler. But this just did not work. The match itself, like I say, was slow, was plodding. There was no an I Quit match. You have to be really careful with when you're asking them, do you quit? Because it can get so comical. And this happens the best of them. Like Bret Hart and Bob Backlund had an I Quit match, and the crowd was laughing their arse off the whole way through it because of the way Roddy Piper, who was the guest referee, the way he was asking, every two, someone would put on a wrist lock and Roddy Piper be jumping and going, do you quit? Do you quit?
Yeah, it only works. And again, it's got to do with the level of violence, like the Mankind Rock I Quit match. I personally cannot watch that match anymore. It is horrendous. I mean, it's attempted murder, at a certain point, and when you watch it, that's all you think. You're like, the brain damage that he's suffering is real.
And the thing is that in order to grip you, because so wrestling will have people pass out rather than submit, because in kayfabe, tapping out is kind of shameful, and saying I quit is just like
the worst thing ever.
Yeah, when you were saying earlier, when someone says I quit in an I quit match, they need to disappear for 3 months.
There's a reason for it. You don't just, because it is, and again, like that's what I'm saying.
It's a feud ender.
But the level of what, like, again, Mankind, again, he didn't quit. He was there was played over PA that he quit. That kind of nonsense.
But even taking all that out, someone needs so the end was quite good. The angle they did was good. The whole thing with Concerto. I actually love that even across WWE and AEW, the Concerto was like one of the most protected moves in all the wrestling,
which is great.
But as a match, this was, like I say, someone needs to have a word with Edge about these 30-minute slow plodding, because he's capable of so much more. Maybe again, it's to do with WWE has that ceiling on, sort of violence, like really gratuitous violence. So there was nothing in it that would. Neither of them did anything that made me think the other was going to say, "I quit."
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like, if you can't deliver on the promise. Look, AEW did this with the exploding ring thing, right?
Oh man, it
make
me cry.
I know this goes both ways, right? So
watch Cactus Jack versus Terry Funk in Japan in the early 90s. You'll see exploding matches.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean. If you can't deliver on something, don't promise it. And an I Quit match, it needs a level of violence. It needs something where you're actually going to cut into them with a bit of glass or whatever, to make them quit. And you can't do that in WWE. It just looks silly. I mean, Edge now looks weaker for it. Finn Balor has gained nothing. Edge shows up next week, cuts a promo going, "I'm sad," and then he moves on. And it's like, okay, this doesn't do anything for anybody. So that's my thought on it. Dave, real quick, what was this like live?
Yeah, it's not going to be quick.
Try keep it quick. Come on.
I'll keep it to 10. So this was by far
hours.
Yeah, right. This was by far the absolute best match on the card. No, nothing even compared to this match. This was from start to finish the absolute best thing we saw. Now, obviously, you heard my preface, which was an I Quit should have a stipulation. I'm throwing that out now to give what it was like to actually be there. Okay. So, Edge is good at making you care. And we could talk about the finish all we want. Those last 10 minutes of that match is some of the best that WWE has produced since SummerSlam. That moment of, there's no way I'm quitting, but you're putting my wife in harm's position. Okay, I will quit to save her. That tugs at the heartstrings of a fan. You can say it didn't for you. It did for me.
But how? She's a wrestler.
That tugged because I still think it's real. Damn it!
But everybody knows she's a wrestler.
Okay, but bear with it.
Random person.
No, I get that, but let me have my time. So,
okay, sorry.
Okay, so that moment, and it wasn't just that. I rewatched this match, and I'll explain why in a second. I rewatched this match, and I rewatched it with Jenna, and that concerto, she was like, "Holy shit!" Like, the fact that Rhea still hit her after made her recoil. Like, it hit her in the gut that they would do something like that. It was so powerful. And then, the hockey stick stuff was great, integrating the fact that it's where the Flyers play, and Edge is from Canada, so he plays hockey, so they used that. They used the chair bottom that they'd used in the past. You had the run-in from Judgment Day. Sure, a lot of people in the audience were hoping for AJ, but if you follow NASCAR, you understood that he was in Charlotte. He was test driving some cars that day. So I knew that in advance. I was hold
on. Here's a question I have on that. I know. I will let you finish. I promise.
Okay.
So with all that said, right, would it not have made more sense to do that in the build-up and then have this I Quit match? Whereas, right, you've done everything. You put my wife through this. You have to blah 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 blah.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that really drew at the heartstrings. I think what's missing from what I'm about to talk about 5 minutes from now is a female talent, and that could be Beth Phoenix. But in that moment, oh my gosh, was that something? Now, why is this my favorite match off the card? And maybe why is this not so special for you guys? So, how do I say this? We're off the air, technically. So the seats I was in, I got a text before the show. Hey, what section are you in? I let them know what section I was in. They'll know what my seats were. Not normally where WWE would come up to do that particular thing when Edge and Finn Bálor went into the crowd after they were fighting on the pre-show set. I'm going to leave it at that. Y'all can imply what I'm trying to say. So that was so cool.
Yeah,
for me.
cool. All right, that would be cool.
That was so cool for me. Like, they stopped and fought next to me for several minutes. I sent you guys videos.
You did.
It was amazing. I'm not claiming anything. I'm implying. Y'all take that for what you want it to be. But my point is, without going into too much detail, that really made it special.
That's
for us there. And, it was funny, like, obviously you're not supposed to stream or record or video. Everybody is. Yeah. Security guards were coming up to us after. Oh, can you show me the video? I want to see if I was in it. Like that, no. literally. Like that was the level that they were at. Like, we were astounded that they did that. If you rewatch the pay-per-view, you'll see me. I'm right there in a lot of it. It made it special. I
mean,
for me,
you can't compete with that. That's
no,
and experience you don't get that much. That's amazing. Really
it is. And so because of that, like, I can take what you guys are saying into account on TV and say, okay, maybe it didn't come across that great for you, but for us, the section I was particularly in, it made our night. It was everything.
And the thing
it was everything we possibly could have asked for.
But see, that's the thing.
And Finn right there, a foot away from us, Edge foot away from us, strangling each other, trying to make each other say, I quit, throwing them into the top. 10 feet up into the air to smack their head into concrete. That's not easy landings, man. Like, especially when you're sitting in those seats, you understand it. Like, it might not necessarily play as well to TV, because this is one of the few matches that I rewatched back. Mainly so I could take screenshots of myself and send to everybody. But my point is, this match was just on a totally different level from everything else in the pay-per-view, because it had everything that I want. I want a good story, great story. Because if we want to talk about what's the stipulation of I quit, it's to cement the fact that Edge quit the Judgment Day. And Finn Bálor did that. He did that wholeheartedly with absolutely no compassion whatsoever. Rhea Ripley's fantastic. All of a sudden, Dominic Mysterio is a believable character that I will root for as a heel, because he surely wasn't going to get over as a face that's just tag teaming with his dad and then flounders like a carp that's been sitting out for a week in the sun. Like, that's not going to go anywhere in the future. You're welcome, Uncle Roger fans. So my point is, this was a really special moment as a fan of wrestling, as a fan that was there. But also, even if I take that away, those last 10 minutes of the match with Beth Phoenix and Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day was such a great storyline that it really tugged at your heart, the way that the first time, not the 25th time, but the first time Cody Rhodes did the nonsense with going for like an NWA title, and these legends came out to support and all this, and you started crying because you felt stuff. That's what you got out of Beth getting concertoed at the end there. And then, man, you're not going to be able to not let me talk about this. I have to. If you Monday Night Raw, man, the next day, and credit to NASCAR for also playing it up. Like, hey, check out Raw. Like, AJ Styles is going to do something big. Well, I didn't know what. So I'm watching Raw, and I see AJ Styles, who it's no secret, it's my favorite wrestler by far. I was wearing an AJ hoodie at the wrestle at Extreme Rules. So you want to look for me, I'm the guy wearing an AJ hoodie, and I have a white camera out. But so to see him come down to the ring and shake Balor's hand kneel in front of him, say, "You're right. I can't do this without family." I mean, rewatching the promo, which I've done 10 times now, you hear all the little cues that he was doing to reference what was about to happen. But when the unthinkable, what I thought was unthinkable, happened, the guys that were fired a week after main eventing WrestleMania against The Undertaker during a hug with Finn Balor show up. Anderson and Gallows, the Good Brothers, the family is back. The OG, the Bullet Club, the real Bullet Club, not this crap that AEW is pretending is the Bullet Club. The actual Bullet Club, you know, the Finn Balor to AJ Styles Bullet Club with the original members of Anderson and Gallows showing up and reforming. And finally, AJ, who, by the way, congrats on your $3 million a year contract. Congrats on your bus. I guarantee you Gallows and Anderson are going to much prefer riding in a bus than a car every week. This was not just a great match. It led into one of my favorite storylines going forward, because finally AJ, who is getting paid like a top talent, but not treated like one, at least in terms of pay-per-views, is back in the position that he needs to be. We're going to see Judgment Day. Maybe this will go into Survivor Series, and we'll get Judgment Day versus, you know, the Bullet Club or whatever they have to call them, the BPG. But this was a really special moment that parlayed into Monday. And, you know, I texted you guys about it, and it's not a joke. I literally, we're on YouTube now, right? I literally screamed at the top of my lungs, "Holy shit!" And the music hit for Anderson and Gallows, because I thought AJ was going to join Judgment Day, but just make it happen. He needs something different to happen with his character. Hey, he's stale. He's not winning. He did what he needed with Amos. Amos is now in good matches. Loud as Braun Strowman. It'll be great. But AJ, what's he doing? And then you give him back his core, his family. Maybe throw back Beth Phoenix into the mix, into the mix to counter Rhea Ripley. That's a possibility now.
Actually, it's funny you mention that, because actually on that point, do you think then this is going to go into War Games?
Well, and it could. And that's what I love about this is you have two talents who are getting up there in age. And, you know, AJ, my figurine's right there on the wall hanging up on the shelf. Like, I get it. Like, I'm a super fan. So I'm going to mark out about stuff other people aren't going to care about. But, man, seeing him get revitalized, man, that means so much to people like me, because you know, AJ's not getting any younger. Finn's not getting any younger, especially after his past couple years in NXT. I mean, that's hard hitting. So to see the original Bullet Club, for Kenny Omega was even involved in this crap that he wants to pretend he's like the head of or whatever. Like, the actual Bullet Club is going head to head when they raised their hands up and they did the Wolfpack on Raw. That sent chills down my spine. I know Lesnar showed up later, but that's not what I was marking out about.
All right. Okay, Dave. Okay, we get it. We get it.
I get that you get it. My point is, this wasn't just an I Quit match, which was...
I don't quite get it yet. I'm going to need more detail. I'm going to need more detail.
What I'm saying is, this has not only accomplished a great storyline that tugged at your heartstrings when you were watching the match, it then set up the resurgence of my favorite wrestler. So how can I not like this? It makes Dominic Mysterio relevant. It makes him have a good character. He's a tremendous heel. He's got almost Vicky Guerrero level of heat when he tries to talk. That is so hard to obtain. And it's not get away heat. It's we hate you heat. And that's really, really a difficult line to balance. So
ladies and gentlemen,
this by far was the best match on the card, not just because it was a great match to watch in person, not just because when I rewatched it on TV, it played great, but because it has set up the next several months of booking. And credit Triple H for doing the right thing, signing those contracts, giving AJ back the guys that he came into the company with and fought hand and teeth and nail to get them a good contract. Welcome back, Good Brothers. So good to see the real original club back. And man, I am just so stoked to turn on Raw every single week, because man, It's gnarly, it's steezy, it's everything I want it to be. And this match has laid the groundwork for the next couple months. So I don't see the criticisms of it. I genuinely don't.
So to sum up for Dave for the last 15 minutes, AJ makes Dave happy.
No, it's more than that.
No, that's it. No, that's it. We have to move on.
No, it wasn't even in this match. And that's my point. It was a great match without him. It pulled your heartstrings. And then it led into a new storyline that doesn't involve Edge. And that's booking brilliance. And that's the difference between Vince McMahon, who one-offs, pops at the pay-per-views, and Triple H, who worked that Attitude Era, understands pay-per-views aren't the end. Maybe you build to bigger things, but it doesn't have to be the same people. You turn those storylines into bigger aspects.
No, you sold me on it. No, like you have. Like the fact that War Games, that Triple H said that War Games is going to be story driven rather than a blow off match, I can actually see those links. But you have bestowed a new appreciation for me anyway, Martin. I'm kind of sold on this now.
I just want to know if Dave believes the Earth is a globe.
AJ and I
how deep is your fandom? How loyal are you?
Well, so here's the thing. So if you look into the Old Testament,
oh my God, no. That's a different show, Dave. That's a different show.
It's a different show. Is this not the conspiracy podcast?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No, and I don't want to get thrown off YouTube. So no, it's a globe.
Right. So moving on. So our main event was Matt Riddle.
South America thinks it was like Australia thinks it's like the back of a
Dave.
I'm just
the main event was the fight pit match.
You know what the best part of this main event was? Roman Reigns was in the building. You know what made us all happy in Philadelphia? Roman Reigns wasn't in the building. You know what happened the last time Roman Reigns had a really good victory at the end of a Philadelphia pay-per-view? It was a Royal Rumble where The Rock came out and tried to and got booed to hell.
I remember that.
You don't like Roman Reigns in Philadelphia. The best part of the show is we didn't have to worry about the bloodline or any of this nonsense. We could just enjoy real wrestling.
Fair. Well, okay. Martin, so before the big return, which we'll get into, what do you think of this match?
I think it's kind of hard for me to give a fair summation of the match because I wasn't viewing it purely as a match. I loved the first fight pit, loved the second fight pit. Huge fan of Matt Riddle. Like I say, bell to bell, big fan of Seth Rollins as a wrestler, not so much as a person. So I had like really high expectations for this. So
I feel the same way, but about Matt Riddle. Check out his Wikipedia. Just do some research, guys.
I love how we're all night we've been sort of dancing the line of of receiving a solicitor's letter. So I think maybe like I'm because they're two phenomenal whatever about them outside the ring. They're two phenomenal.
There's only one phenomenal one. How dare you say that?
Well, they're two excellent performers. So I don't know, maybe this was good and it just suffered from really high expectations.
Yeah, mate, I think that's probably true. I think that's probably on the point, all right, yeah.
For whatever reason, man, this kicked off and I was like, from my point of view, because I'm not secretly married to AJ Styles, I wasn't like, this hadn't been a great pay-per-view for me thus far. But when the fight pit came down...
It wasn't on the pay-per-view! What are you talking about?
Well, when the fight pit came down, like I started to get a wee bit hyped again. Because even it's quite difficult in wrestling now to come up with like a brand new gimmick, even though I know it's the Lions Den.
It's the Lions Den.
It's the Lions Den with a shelf.
Yeah, it's the most
Also, NXT did it, like less than a year ago. Very well.
Yeah. But no,
hold on, can I just say, hold on 1 second, Martin. The Lions Den did have a shelf.
Oh, did it?
It was, yeah. Well, no, the one on Raw.
But it was angled, so they couldn't get up on it, was it not?
Well, no. When Ken Shamrock was against Owen Hart, that's what the ref was.
Oh, yeah, but that's the wrestlers never went up there.
Yeah, the wrestlers never went. Well, no, Ken Shamrock did celebrate on top of it, and Chris Jericho did talk on front of it. No, but I mean, normally the wrestlers didn't go up there during the match.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, anyway, the point is that as it was coming down, I was like, oh, the fight pit still has something. It actually started to evoke a little bit, not a percentage of what you used to get when the cell would come down before they made the cell ridiculous.
Yeah.
A little bit of that. So I had high expectations. The thing coming, like the pit coming down, kind of pumped me up a wee bit. And I was like, 3 minutes into this, I'm like waiting for it to get good. And then 5 minutes into it, I'm like, oh, it's going to kick off any minute now. And then 10 minutes into it, I was like, am I a bit bored? And 15 minutes in, they're up on the top and they're kind of scrambling around. And then, now look, that Dave Matt Riddle did, I'm sure it was terrifying. But it's just me, there's something about it looked really weird and awkward. And I don't know, maybe if he meant to rotate differently or something, it just looked very strange. But yeah, I was struck halfway through this that I was really not enjoying it. And again, maybe if I'd viewed it entirely kind of separated from the other fight pit matches, maybe it would have changed my view of it. But yeah, I was very disappointed in this, and that's not to say it was the worst match of the night. I think it's just because my hopes for it were so high that the fall was much longer.
I mean, I think that's fair. As I said, the fight pit, I give them props for trying out, for bringing it into the main roster. It does have that kind of appeal, because anything that looks kind of different in WWE now is a good thing. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I think it was undone by the fact that the real main event was a debut. And yeah, it was just weird. It was just a weird kind of placement to have this hot feud and then lean so heavily into what they did when the show technically went off the air. Dave, how did this play out to you in the arena?
Yeah, it played out two ways. It played out me learning a lot about Riddle I didn't know beforehand. Credit fans around me. Do your research, people.
Had you not heard any of the accusations? Or
I stay away from that stuff. I try and ignore it. Okay. Because, yeah,
you can't enjoy any wrestling from the 80s.
Well, it's not. Yeah, exactly. And it's the same way. Like if a musician or comedian that I really like disagrees with me politically, I'm not gonna not go watch them. Kind of concept. I try and put that to the side. But okay, so let's talk about this. Two things were happening during this match. We just wanted to see what was going to happen off the top. Didn't care about anything else. We wanted to see what the dive was going to be. Right. And when I rewatched it, I got flashbacks to Matt Hardy jumping off a cell and having his pelvic bone fused to his spine. And if you look at the way that Riddle fell, he made almost... That's the reason that Matt Hardy doesn't really do the leg drop anymore.
Wow.
This is years ago. I'm dating myself now. But if you look at the way that Riddle fell, I mean, I rewatched a lot, and it doesn't look like he makes that much contact with Rollins. That's right on his lower lumbar. That's a hard fall from a legit 15 feet. And I don't, as much as I love that kind of stuff, I like it when it's safe. And that was always my problem with those X Division, what were they called? Those thank you. Yeah. Those Ultimate X matches is they took punishments that took years off their life that I don't think they deserved to have endured. And that came through in this match for me.
That's fair.
I will say this though. It was by far the easiest cage match that I've ever been at live to see fully what was happening. If you've been to a house show, you know they still use those 1980s. Yes, the 80s happened. They still use those 1980s old school blue things for cages. It's awful. You can't see through them. Hell in a Cell, that can get a little dicey to see through. to see through. I don't know why I can't speak all of a sudden. Apologies.
Because it's a big red milk crate.
Yeah, but my point is, I could see everything very, very clearly in this match. So credit to whatever they did to fix up the ring for this. Taking the ropes off was a great thing. I don't know why DC was there. There were all these rumors about it's going to lead to like a match between him and Lesnar. Obviously not. I don't really understand why he was there. He played no significant role whatsoever, at least from the audience perspective there live. So we want to see somebody jump from the top. We saw it. We popped for that. It was cool. Nice match, I guess. But you know what we were watching the entire time was the clock behind the hard cam that went 11 o'clock, 11:01, 11:02. 11:03. Match ends 11:04. We're getting really antsy because we want to see Bray Wyatt. And where the hell is Bray Wyatt? Because are we off the air at this point? Like, what's happening? Right. Were they just teasing us? So when you're going into a match, and the best thing I can say is, we could see everything. It was super viewable, and we wanted to see something happen from the top, and we wanted to see what was going to happen after the match. We really didn't care about who won this match. That's a problem booking-wise, in my personal opinion.
So, I mean, so let's move on to that. So, like, again, I kind of had the same anticipation, where I'm like, this is great and all, but I don't care. Where's Bray Wyatt, right? So when he did show up, I'm just gonna say this now. I'm sad that the Fiend isn't there. I mean, I don't know why do you have all his floozies just like there, and I'm not a fan of that. But I'm not gonna go on it too far right now because obviously it just happened. But Martin, we talked a lot about Bray Wyatt when he left, and obviously I have like literally 6 Bray Wyatt action figures. He's one of my favorite wrestlers who can't wrestle. I genuinely love the gimmick. I think it's great, but I don't know. I'm sad that he's back, but also happy that he's back. It's still too early to tell. What did you think about it? Did you think? Like, I thought the mask he came out with was kind of weird. I'm like, I don't like this.
I mean, it was better than Finn Balor's mask. and I will say that, but before I hear Martin's thoughts on this, because I'm genuinely curious, like how it played out on TV. But there was a lot of anticipation in that arena, and you often see people leave when that final match is over. But we stayed. Everybody, at least where we were, didn't budge a moment. We knew it was coming. Yeah. And that's hard if you're in a main event to have to taper to those expectations of, hey, but nobody cares. We're here to see what happens next.
And that's the feeling that a lot of people had, even watching this. So Martin, like, were you in the same boat was I where I was just like, okay, I just want to see Bray Wyatt now, and how did it play out for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was a level of curiosity to see what way it would play out. I mean, like yourself, my views on Bray are conflicting. I'm a big work rate guy, and like as we've established, he's not the best technical wrestler, best athlete in the world, and it means he can build up all this, and he's really good at building up all this stuff, building up his matches, building up an aura, and then the bell rings, and it doesn't take very long for it to fall apart. Yeah. But so he hasn't had a match yet. And
don't worry though, Eva Marie on TikTok is already trying to tease her way into this angle. So have hope, have faith.
And if they're clever, they'll limit his matches. They'll keep him really. In terms of the angle itself, like the reveal itself, I mean, I have such a conflicted view with Wyatt because he was the last new character in WWE when I was still watching that I genuinely loved, that really got me in, and really made me watch Raw every week. Yeah. And he was also the character with that Hell in a Cell match that made me go, right, that's it, I'm done.
And he's also the character with the box leg structure.
But genuinely, that Hell in a Cell match with Rollins was where I emotionally disassociated from WWE. I was like, right, nothing matters to this company, so I'm not emotionally investing. So I can watch the stuff, I can laugh when it's stupid, but I don't care about it. I'm not going to stress about it. I'm not going to get worried or anxious, or like I do now. Like when AEW screws something up, I'm like kind of beside myself because I'm, that could have been so good. I don't feel that with WWE because from that Hell in a Cell match, I have just disassociated from them. So I have this conflicting view of him. He is a character that doesn't fit anywhere else. Like you say, Impact, he would have, as a character, would have been great in Impact, but Impact wouldn't have had the production to make him appear as anything less than ridiculous.
Although to be fair, that probably would have been hilarious at the same time. I mean,
it would have been.
I mean, Dave's going to get this reference. You're not because we haven't got there yet. But Black Rain.
Oh no, I know Black Rain.
Yeah, but you haven't experienced Black Rain.
I'm not, and I'm really not sure that I want to because I love Dusty Rhodes so much.
Me and Dave are covering at the time, and then when Abyss lost, was in the insane asylum, and there's so much garbage that I would. Part of me,
I had to do live post shows for that.
Yeah, man.
But
there was no money in the world for that. I'm sorry.
No, there's a reason I'm not still with. Well, never mind.
In terms of the actual reveal, I mean, yeah, like they did the thing where they zoomed in on the different characters, and whether you thought that was cool or whether you thought that was goofy is really just going to come down to your personal tastes, your preferences in wrestling. If you like the spooky stuff, if you don't like the spooky stuff, if you like the Fiend or if you didn't like the Fiend.
Look, I like the spooky stuff and I love the Fiend, but I thought that was pretty lame. I'm just gonna say now. I mean, kind of lame. Now I don't know what they're gonna do. They could do a lot more, but
tune in to SmackDown right now.
Do you know what, Dara?
It's happening.
It's all. It's far too early.
It is far too early.
The whole thing around this is what happens with it, and if they go on and make a great character out of this, then that will change how we view the debut. If they go on and they screw it up again, then the debut will be, absolutely farcical. It's but you know what? One thing I always liked about Bray was that, good or bad, he is creative.
Yeah.
Sometimes to his detriment. He is different. He is, if nothing else, he is interesting. I would tune in to watch Bray Wyatt, not even necessarily because I'm a huge fan, just to see what the hell he's going to do.
And you know what? I think that's been missing from the show. Bray Wyatt needs to be on WWE. I would still say on it, discount Wyatt Bray in Impact would be hilarious, but for all the wrong reasons. I mean, it would be gas. And
the only other thing I'd say is, before Dave gives his views, is I think there's maybe not a full podcast, but a discussion to be had on what is happening behind the scenes with WWE, with all the people who are fired for, I'm doing air quotations, budget cuts. And
you have to pay prostitutes allegedly somehow. I mean, come on, WCW only cost $4 million. But here's the thing, cost a lot more.
But here's the thing, so
whatever he was going, allegedly.
Nick Khan was apparently leading a lot of those cuts or demanding a lot of those cuts, and now all those people are back. Are they back on similar contracts? Are they back on bigger contracts? Are they back getting half the money they were? Is money not an issue? Was that, as we all expected, farcical excuse? If they're starting to really spend again, does that mean the sale is more likely? Does it mean the sale is less likely? It's really interesting that they're after being on a firing spree that we all assumed was like a cost-cutting thing to make the company look really profitable, and now they're on a hiring spree. It's a separate issue, but I think it's just an interesting one to discuss at some point in the future.
Well, I think we will, Martin. As I said, the thing about this show is it is basically based, in the past, but things are moving so quickly now with the WWE that we probably will have to have that discussion when
it's the wrestling fast forward.
The wrestling fast forward, that's it, But Dave, so you were there, and how did this play out live? What did you think about this? Obviously, you're probably happy that the Fiend is back as well, but what was it like in the arena?
No, not at all.
Really?
I don't want the Fiend back. I got exactly what I wanted. I got the Cult Leader back. That's who I want. I want Bray Wyatt back. I don't want the Fiend. And that's what I loved about this. So you guys have the video. It's like 6 minutes long. Maybe Dara will put this in post, but I showed what it looked like from the fans in attendance. From the second the lights went out, mind you, we were chanting for Bray throughout the night, but from the second the lights went out, all our phones immediately, everybody, boom, lights on the phones. But it wasn't until he's got the whole world in his hands hit that massive, I think the most massive pop I've ever been involved in personally happened. It was magical. It sent chills through us. Now, rewatching it on TV, I can see how you might have a different perspective, because in the audience, we didn't see the close-ups, except like the pig was in the aisle next to me, and then like the head was like on the table and all that. So like those were the two I saw, but like the other 5 I didn't see live. Now rewatching,
the Bray Wyatt entrance is special. I mean, if anyone's ever been in one, it is unlike anything else. It's like I wasn't lucky enough to see the Undertaker live, but I imagine it's very much the same way.
Thank you for saying that, because that's my point.
I was one of the few people who didn't hate the maggots being projected onto the ring. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, you weren't there live to watch it.
Okay.
It was cockroaches and nonsense, but so
nonsense.
But actually being there, being in the thrall of it, and it's when the WWE teases you to a point that you think something's going to happen, but you also know it's the WWE, and for all we know, it's going to be Karrion Kross or Alexa Bliss with somebody else. We don't know. You don't know. The second that music hit and everybody started singing, you realize there's magic. Is he the best in-ring performer? Hell no. Hell no. I've gone on the record 1,000 times saying that. But Triple H had an interview recently with I'm going to mess his name up. It was Ariel Helwani that does their like pre. Yeah, thank you. That covers them. And he talked about Bray Wyatt like a week in advance and said, it was really fun working with him. He's very creative. Sometimes we have to shut him down because he's a little too creative. Because we realized 5 minutes from now he'll have a different idea, and I understand that you guys work with me on the same way. So like I get that, but being there for that moment was one of my favorite WWE moments I've ever been there for. And if we want to talk about returns or debuts, there's 3 now that stick out in my mind. There is Chris Jericho coming out, and that was just unbelievable, the reaction that he got against The Rock. There was AJ Styles showing up in that Royal Rumble in number 3. Who the hell?
Styles, Dave.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean that was a moment. Yeah. That was a moment that we as wrestling fans never thought would happen. No. And then you have magic, and we don't have the Undertaker anymore. And I'm sorry, Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Scarlett, you are beautiful. I have a friend whose daughter is named Scarlett, and God bless, but like it just isn't the same.
No.
Bray Wyatt coming back as the cult leader, showing the old Fiend setup, showing the fun house, showing the Firefly fun house, and it's all dilapidated and nothing's there. But then all of a sudden the characters come to life. The puppets have now come to life and are playing distraction to this. What does this mean? Does this mean Bray has a posse that he's with of 5 people? Does this mean that the cult leader's back? Will Braun be with him? Where's this going to go? But none of that mattered in the moment. What mattered to us were the lights went out. We didn't know if we were still in the air because it was happening after 11 o'clock. And credit to WWE, because when I watched this back, they played it off like, are we still on the air? Yeah. Michael Cole doesn't get enough credit, and he should. Yeah, great to have Wade Barrett with him, but point aside. or not with him on Raw, but you know what I mean. So like, my point is, this was really, really a special moment to witness live, and is one I'm going to remember for a really, really long time, because you spent the entire night hoping it would happen, and then it actually happened. I can't tell you how many wrestling shows I've been at. The first WrestleMania match of Cena versus Rock comes to mind, where why on earth would Rock win? And we were all just like, well, that was dumb. That comes to mind. It's like a really lame moment that could have gone the other way and really helped somebody's career. And so for me, this was the epitome of, how do you debut someone? How do you keep this cryptic stuff going that you've been doing for months, which again is not something we would see under Vince, right? I mean, when's the last time we saw something this creative? QR codes, secret websites to visit. I mean, this is almost Cicada 3301 nonsense that they were pulling with the White Rabbit. And I love that, because that's the kind of stuff that makes me get excited as a fan.
And as we're on the air right now, so we're recording this at 2 a.m. Irish time.
Sorry,
Bray Wyatt has just returned on SmackDown.
Right, and I'm looking for, as soon as we're off the air, I'm going to go watch SmackDown. Like that's where I'm at, because SmackDown has Ricochet and has Bray Wyatt, so I'm in. So this was chilling, because where we were in the audience, they were still playing it the way they have many, many a week of, we could just be teasing you and he might not appear. He could not appear. But you could do all of this. You could show the door. You could show the door opening. Boom, pay-per-view off the air. But no, Wyatt actually walks out. Yeah, I get it. He didn't blow the lantern out at the same time. That'll get fixed. But man, when everybody in the audience wants something to happen and you close the show making that happen, that leads to bigger buy rates the next time you're in that region. We got a WrestleMania coming up. That's certainly not going to hurt. It's going to drive your interest to see, hey, what are they going to? I turned on Raw just to see, like, oh, will they even mention it? And they said, oh, watch SmackDown. So I'm like, all right, I got SmackDown recorded. I'll watch that on Friday. Like, that sounds cool. So like, this was special. This was as far as debuts. I'm considering it's a debut, not a return, right? Because it's a new character. I think it was absolutely brilliant, and I can understand certain people want to see the Fiend back. Certain people want to see Alexa Bliss go back to her former character. Certain people apparently on TikTok want to see Eva Marie involved because she was holding the doll. I don't understand that either. But as far as Bray Wyatt goes, and rest in peace to Luke Harper, we have so much potential in what can happen with this character. Make him a special attraction. Roman Reigns is a special attraction at this point. Make Bray Wyatt a special attraction. Don't overexpose him. Keep it mysterious. Keep the Undertaker vibe going. And you can create something truly magical with a creative genius. Is he the best in the ring? No. Is he better than 99 out of 100 people who sign up to go wrestling? Yeah, he absolutely is. So the fact that we're harsh on him it's like saying, and I'm playing to a U.S. audience here, but it's like saying Carson Wentz is a terrible quarterback. Yeah. Are the Commanders doing terrible? Sure. The Washington Commanders are terrible. Are they doing terrible because of Wentz? They absolutely are. Is he the worst quarterback in the world? Of course not. He's just the worst out of the top 32. So that's how I feel about Wyatt. So like, is he the best wrestler? No. But does everything else make up for it? Yeah. Because is this wrestling? No. Hell no, it's not wrestling. When have we forgotten that? Is AEW wrestling? Sure. Is Impact Wrestling? Sure. Is WWE wrestling? No, it's not. It's sports entertainment. And God damn it, I was sports entertained by that moment. And that's what matters at the end of the day.
And we're going to leave it there with that horribly cringy line. But we get the feeling. We appreciate it. Oh my God. So,
Dara, I was sports entertained by that.
I was sports entertained by that. That's brilliant. Wait, when we do rewind merch, that's going to be on the back. I was sports entertained by that. So, folks, we're going to leave it there. I want to thank my two co-hosts, three-man booth, Dave and Martin. Again, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts again. Dave with his lavish praise of AJ Styles, who wasn't on pay-per-view, by the way, folks.
He was on Raw. It was worth mentioning. Listen, I'm talking. It's not just about the night. It's about, does the night make things happen through WrestleMania season? And that's what I'm seeing. And that's, Dara and Martin, a little bit before you were on the show, this is one of the things we were talking about as we were reviewing WF stuff, and I'm at WF stuff. And I'm sure Dara went over this with you as well. One of the things that was lacking was long-term booking, and that's what we're getting now. So yeah, am I an AJ Styles flaky? Of course I am. Was my COVID mask an AJ Styles phenomenal mask? Yeah, it was. I have no shame in that. But
well, I mean, that's
at the same time, what it's setting up is long-term storylines. It's making you wonder, okay, what's going to happen next? I need to tune in next week to see where this goes. And in the background, you have this mystique of Bray Wyatt. You have all these different factions which have been lacking from I mean, how many times have we talked about WWE needs to have some factions? Well, we got them. If it's the Judgment Day, if it's AJ and the Good Brothers, if it's the people on Raw, there are whatever Bray Wyatt decides to do with his cult and who he recruits. Yeah. We are finally back into that late 90s era that made Triple H so successful,
and I think
as a wrestler, and that's what we're re-entering, and this makes me excited. And it's not AEW put 20 people in the ring just because we signed all these contracts and we don't know what to do with them. WWE is smart. You guys were talking about the fact that they're on a hiring spree. They're really not. Triple H is being very careful. He's only hiring back specific people that are going to move the needle, and the rest he's bringing up to NXT, which is where his heart and
just had a Karrion Kross match.
Where I get that, but is that not an NXT guy that Triple H is willing to say, hey, this was really good. Let's see if the production will carry over. If it doesn't, no pun intended, it will cross you off the list. At least they're doing something, and at least people were still talking about Karrion Kross because of Scarlett's outfit. So it's a weird thing that we're in, but the point is they're setting up the long term, and that's what I've been craving. I don't want to see shows rewritten the night of. I love Vince Russo. I love Vince McMahon, but I don't love the fact that they're rewriting shows the day of. I want things set out, and I want them to make sense, and I understand we have Saudi shows that are always going to throw that rhythm off, but the point is, going into WrestleMania season, this is one of the most excited I've been in years. Yeah. And I'm not going to Mania this year. I'm not going out to LA to watch it. I am excited nonetheless for what's going to happen to Survivor Series next month in November. What's going to happen at the Royal Rumble? We can throw everything up in the air. How are they going to play out this cult? Who's going to join? Who's going to come into the Bullet Club and be the female talent to take out Ripley? There is so much potential, and it's not bogged down by having the elite they're suspended, but by having whoever come out and there's 20 people in it and you don't even know who half the people are. Every single person matters, and I think that makes me happy as a fan.
And I think that's important because, again, one of the things that we do on the show is we do cover periods of time that had arcs and long-term storytelling. It's something that has got away for a while. So look, it is interesting. It's a show that definitely felt different.
No, Dara, I'm not going to gloss over this. How dare you admonish me for swearing and then allow Dave to say, I love Vince Russo. I will not stand for it.
Vince Russo. Vince Russo.
I own his book. It's great.
I own two of his books.
I remember reading in college in the cafeteria, pouring over every page, "You're right, bro. You're right, bro." You said "bro" a lot.
He does say "bro" a lot.
I've never seen it, but I just imagine that his book is written in crayon.
Which one?
Honestly, 90% of the book, if you haven't read it, only his first one. Derek can speak more to his second one, but 50% of the book is I found Jesus, so I would do this differently. So maybe not the best read, but.
Yeah, Rope Opera, the one where he talks about TNA, actually is quite good. That's actually a pretty good read. The other one is, as Dave said, he finds Jesus and walks back a lot what he said and did. But anyway, so again, that we're gonna leave it there, folks, because we were nearly 2.5 hours. So It's late. And again, Dave, want to thank you for your time, sir. It's good having you on the show. You're going to try to do monthly, right?
That's the goal. Whenever something excites me, I'm here, man. Brilliant. I'm just here for the excitement.
And we are going to start streaming every week on YouTube. So thewrestlingrewind.com. Take it right to YouTube, where we're going to be there every week. We're going to try to do a pre-stream. We're figuring all that out. And of course, I'll be joined every week by Martin Herty. Martin.
Whoop, whoop.
And we're going to keep going until Punk acknowledges you and responds.
Till death. And do you know what? He's codding himself, Dara. He's only fooling himself, because he's going to have to answer eventually. And the older he is, the easier it's going to be for me to bait him.
And then he just hit that leg and he'll go down. That's it.
Bang. Do you know what I'll do? I'll get in the ring and I'll just throw one of them cupcakes the far side of it, and he'll be so distracted.
He's like, I love those. So I think that's a good strategy. I think that's a good strategy.
Pretty sure they were muffins. Let's get our facts right.
I'll throw a cupcake one side to distract him, and then a real muffin the other side. By the time he gets back to me, he'll be blown up. He'll be wrecked.
Wait, before we go off the air, because I know Dara's queuing us out and doesn't want me to talk anymore, but I understand that.
That's not true.
No, it is.
Dave, what would your top 5 AJ Styles matches be?
Oh my god.
Well, that's easy.
I don't know what he's done.
Death Before Dishonor 2 against Paul London. His triple threat against Samoa Joe.
Dave
and Paul London was absolutely phenomenal. His triple threat against Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels was great. John Moxley, I believe it was in Extreme Rules, was a phenomenal match.
Name them. Break them down for us.
I'm just trying to name them. We're going to show it. This isn't why I interjected back in, but thanks for driving me off topic. I appreciate it. Good Lord.
Why did you interject back in?
I don't even remember now. Martin put me off. It wasn't about AJ. I know that much.
Anyway, so we are going to leave it there, folks. We're going to be back next week here on the show. I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing next week, Martin?
I don't know. There had been some talk about an Undertaker arc. There had been some talk about maybe doing a one-off, maybe picking like a pay-per-view from some promotion at some point in time that was a one-off. Who knows? We'll come up with something during the week.
I tell you what, the best way to do it, folks, and I will say it again, is to go over and you can find everything on thewrestlingrewind.com. And that has links to all our social media and everything. Please do follow us on Facebook and Twitter, not because we want an ego. It's just, we decide this on a Tuesday usually, and we're like, what are we going to do? So that's when we decide what we're going to do. So I mean, once we decide, we'll post it, and then you guys can watch along, and it'll be ready for the live stream as well. Dave will be back probably in a month. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. Probably War Games, actually. Looking at the calendar, that probably lines up. And so again, subscribe, share the podcast, tell everybody about it, because the Wrestling Rewind is the only podcast by wrestling fans who don't hate wrestling. We'll be back next week here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, the True Penny Channel, Nerd to Know Media, and of course, thewrestlingrewind.com. Bye, guys.
Scarlett.
Follow me on Twitter at @DaveStevens.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.